Hey, everybody. It's the Unmuted Man podcast. I'm excited to be with you this evening. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We are creating an epic time right now. This is going to be a historical moment. This is actually the first Unmuted Man podcast that we're doing. We're still in season 1. This is episode 3, but this is the very first live that we're doing, the very first podcast that we're doing with guests. So today is a guest day, and I'm excited about it being a guest day. I'm excited about my friend that's going to be on with me live. He usually uses me for the very first show of the season. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm doing it with him as well because I think he has a powerful voice. You're going to notice that I'm going to be bringing quite a few men on the podcast that I really believe have a voice for this age, for the voices of this age. These are men that are not muted men. It's very important. As you know, I created this whole thing. It all started with the art that you're looking at. It's something that I believe I was inspired by God to do. The art that you see there was a depiction of a man that had a mask, a man that had limitations too. Maybe to some people, this may look like an extension of himself, but it's really a limitation because I noticed that a lot of men have the ability to communicate when it comes to technology, but they don't have the ability to communicate from their human side. You know, technologically speaking, and I know a lot of men would say, well, I don't talk. I'm really quiet. I'm really laid back. But when sports are on, anything that you want to do, you communicate. You're even talking to your television, or when you go to the movie theater, you're talking back to the movie. So guess what? The ability to communicate is inside of you. It's just that you have not found the reason why it's absolutely important for you to communicate relationally, human relationally. Okay? When you're watching the sports game, whatever else it is, you are communicating. You're communicating with people that can't even hear you. So what I'm encouraging you to do now is to begin to understand the value and the importance of communicating with people that can hear you, to build relationships. You see, one of the mantra that the Father gave me, or the tagline that he gave me for Unmuted Man, was that it's about healthy partnerships, and they are built relationally, not mechanically. That's another thing that you see here. A lot of times men are functioning from a mechanical place, and you're going to notice that we're sharing some things here tonight that are going to enlighten you, and some things are going to surprise you. Other things might just be things that you grab a hold of in this season and say, you know what? That's what I needed to know, that I could unlock, or I could open up. Sometimes, a lot of times, people are unlocking and opening themselves in the wrong environments with the wrong people. I think that is a very serious issue that so many of us have. Many of us have. But my guest tonight, he's here, and he was in the studio. He just fell out. So I guess he'll come right back in. He just fell out. He popped right on out of there. But he's going to come back into the studio. I've also got one of my good friends on, a prophet. She's going to come on. She's going to say some things as well tonight. I think it's going to be absolutely epic. The time that we spend here tonight, you won't forget it. I can promise you that. You won't forget it. We're going to say some things, again, that may shock you, and some things that may unlock you. But at the end of the day, if you're a man and you're listening to this broadcast, the goal of this broadcast is to make you come into the place of being an unmuted man, because your voice is not only powerful, your voice is necessary. So I'm waiting on my good friend to come back into the studio. You guys have heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. Well, before I was getting on the live, I was attempting to identify, I kind of rested a little bit today. And so you've heard the phrase practice makes perfect. But before I came before it was earlier today, I was kind of resting, and I heard that, practice doesn't just, that phrase is almost, it can be a little iffy. But what I did understand about practice is that it makes not only permanence, but it also makes purpose. Because the only thing that you practice over and over again is what you intend to practice, right? And if you continue to practice a thing over and over again, it will create a permanence, okay? It'll create a permanence, not only in the environment, but in your mind. And so a lot of people are functioning from a place of permanence, something that you've done internally. And there's a repetition that you have activated, that now on autopilot, you can live like this. On autopilot, you function from this place. So it's really important that we get a grasp and a hold of the position that we desire to be in. Means that we have to intentionally do the things that are necessary to put us in that position, because practice makes purpose and it makes permanent. So now you've got to identify, what do you want to purposefully do and what do you want to make permanent in your life. And so that's going to happen as you're dealing with your relationships day to day. I don't know where my friend went, but he's going to come back in here shortly. We're going to get him in, and we're going to keep this train moving tonight. The name of the broadcast, or the title of the broadcast tonight, is the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion, or the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. And this is really this place, or this conversation is really close to me in this season. You know how you have things that are like really they're really prevalent in your life in that moment. And so I noticed that this thing with the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy and this kind of thing, this thing keeps coming back up. As a matter of fact, I'm working on my second solo project, and the name of the project is The Golden Brick Road. So this thing is a really prevalent conversation. But one of the things that I wanted to discuss about these three guys is that you'll notice when you're looking at the Wizard of Oz or Dorothy, these men are depicted originally in their original form in the movie, but then you'll notice that when the dream or the vision happens, right? They're in another form. They're in another form. So one of those things denotes to me is that you exist in real life, but if you're not careful about how you exist in real life, then you'll slip over into another form. You'll slip over into another identity based on how you're living out your life, right now in this place that you're in this position that you're in right now. You will absolutely slip over into living another life. Okay, so we know that the Tin Man was the one that was missing a heart, right? Tin Man was missing a heart, and my friend is back on. Okay, grandson, go back out. She's coming. Thank you. The Tin Man was missing a heart. The Lion was missing courage, right? And we're going to talk about this a little bit tonight as I bring my friend on. He was missing courage. And the Scarecrow, he thought he didn't have a brain. But we're going to kind of connect these things tonight, but I want to have the dialogue as my friend is coming on. I want to have this dialogue with you guys. You guys welcome my friend into the studio. Welcome my friend into the studio, Carl Jackson.
Yo,
He's
yo,
in the
yo.
room. Yo, bro, what's going on? What's
What
going
up? What up?
on?
What up?
It's so good to have you here tonight, and I'm trying to make sure that we have everything that we need in line here. There we go. You guys can see who he is all the way from California. He is live. CGC Network. I have TV there, y'all, but you can't just flip a switch and change things right before you go live. So you see TV, but CJC is a network, and it's an amazing network. And I'm going to let him share what that is. Also, he is Carl Jackson of Motion Picture Studios. Carl Jackson Motion Picture Studios. And he's doing amazing things. Carl, introduce yourself to the people tonight on the Unmuted Man podcast and tell them what's going on with you.
Well, thank you for having me, Miss Lee.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. You were my first guest on season 4 of the Carl
Yes.
Jackson podcast.
Yes.
So I had no choice but to do
No
this, and
choice.
I'm first. So
You
I
are
want
first.
all other people to know
That you
that,
are first.
especially the men, I want them to know I was first. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Go out, grandson.
But no, we're a film and television production company, and God has blessed me to basically have also complete ownership of 2 television networks, and those 2 television networks have 7 other networks under them, and so you can reach us. You can find the networks on Local Now, the Griot, Time Warner, a bunch of television platforms across the world, not just in America. We have over 200 million people that can access our television networks. And we have the film company, where we put out films in theaters. We basically like to pride ourselves in being kind of like a Disney, a version of Disney or Warner Brothers, where we're able to do film and television. And so I'm just blessed to be able to do that, and blessed to also have an opinion, which is what we're going to talk about tonight. Is my opinions on some of the subjects that we had been discussing the past few days before we did this live tonight. So I'm excited.
Yes, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. I was sharing with them that the topic to the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, and I just thought it was so appropriate that we were having this conversation, you and I, and the conversation, like you're saying, that we were having the other day. Such a powerful conversation. So you guys are going to just kind of, I'm just going to treat it tonight like we're on the phone, like
Right.
we're having our normal conversation. That's how I like to do this when it comes
Right.
to having a guest on, because it's just so much more natural. I do have a couple of notes, but I didn't make a whole hoopla. Men are different. You know what I'm saying? And I want to address you from a very, not that my writing is not unique. It would be unique as well. And it would be very heart to heart. But what I want to do is I want to really just speak from a place where I'm not kind of in a box. You know what I mean? I want to just kind of let a natural flow take place, because I believe for a man, that's the best place that a woman can speak from.
Right.
It's just from a natural flow, not something that's regimented, not something that we have contrived, but something that's very natural. Just let it flow, because they're like, get to the point. You're going to hear a whole lot of points tonight, a whole lot of opinions,
Right.
and a whole lot of points. Okay. Carl, when we're talking about these three characters, let's just talk about the Scarecrow for a minute, because when I think about the Scarecrow, I think about how men do not understand that they are being controlled. We talked about this a little bit, very briefly. This is where the mind control thing comes in at. And I think a lot of people in general, but we're talking about men tonight. So a lot of things that I say could probably are not just relegated to one sexual orientation, but both to male and female. But tonight we're talking about the men. A lot of men do not realize that a lot of the ideas, a lot of the concepts, a lot of the ways and functions are a result of having been controlled, mind controlled even. The age that we live in, there's so many things, all kind of ultras. I'm not going to name a whole lot of stuff tonight, but all kind of programs and different things that were put in place just to test theories about how to get to you as a man. Even the music. I said this on one of the other podcasts, and I think it was something to really consider, that even the music and anything else that is directed towards men, it's not really a wholesome position. But I want to start with this, and we're going to come back to the Scarecrow, because this just came up in my mind. What I want people to understand particularly is that anything that you are being privy to, as far as the media is concerned, you are being privy to that because it has a purpose, right? Yeah. So one of the things that was being done in my mind the other day was, I like words, right? So I'm always digging out what words are, where they come from, when did they pop up, when did they show up, right? And so one of the words that came up, and I pondered this before, was entertainment, right? I think a lot of people are not aware that the entertainment industry itself was created for the purpose of, it was meant to detain or cause you to enter into a place. So what I'm saying is, everything has a purpose. So it's not just for mere entertainment that you're watching it wasn't created for you just to watch it, just so you could be, well, no, that's, let me backtrack. That's what it was created for, but that was not the purpose, if that makes sense. What it was created for was to entrain you, right? It was meant to cause you to go down a path, right? But when you're given the word entertainment, you're thinking, oh, I'm just having a good time. Oh, I'm just vegging out. Oh, everything has a purpose, right? And because everything has a purpose, you must identify what that purpose is, so that you can identify whether it fits your purpose or not, what you're looking at, right? So I wanted to throw that out there because I noticed that a lot of people are more entertained than they are intentional about whatever else that's a part of life that they need to be focused on. It's a lot more entertainment than it is anything else, right? And so we
Yeah.
need to come out of the mindset of entertainment because being entertained means that it was easy for you to fall into pornography. I'm just saying,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Being
No, I agree.
entertained means that it's easy for you to not be monogamous,
Right.
right? These words were put in place and these things were created so that the culture would follow a certain path. And so a lot of things that we're doing, we have to identify and be sure that we're not doing these things because we've been trained by something else other than us being intentional about how we desire to live and what we want our outcomes to be, right?
Right.
So we've got to make sure of that. Let's talk about that for a minute. Carl, what are your thoughts on that, about entertainment versus being intentional about what we're looking at and listening to and the purposes of things?
Well, it's interesting that you would say the word entertainment. So our corporate company is Carl Jackson Entertainment Incorporated. And the last 5 years, I've been really struggling with the word entertainment. I mean, like really struggling with it, like wanting to change the name of the company.
Yes.
And the main reason why is because when I got into the film industry and television industry, I got into it like everybody else. Hey, I want to enjoy making films.
Yes.
I just want to movies. And as my spiritual walk got more stronger or
Mm-hmm.
got stronger in God,
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize that it's not entertainment. It's a spiritual
It is. It's a
it is a
transaction.
spiritual mission. It's a spiritual
Transaction.
mission from the evil side
It
to
is.
disrupt your life.
It is.
Every movie, every TV show, every music video, every commercial is designed
Yes.
to take you away from the Father and get you closer and closer to evil intent. And we
Yep.
already know what the evil intent is to come to kill, steal, and destroy.
Right.
So for me, where we've been trying to do with the company, and it's been difficult,
Mm-hmm.
was trying to figure out how to create entertainment that will heal the inner man,
Come
as
on.
opposed to
Enter.
entertainment where it's just processing controlled ideas and
Now, wait a
thoughts.
minute. Wait a minute. I want to say something because that's so powerful. I want to
Sure.
say something right in that place
Hmm.
because entertainment, it creates a sense of responsibility.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Entertainment is forcing you into a place you don't even know
Right.
you're going, but
Right.
you're being forced into a mode of operation. But
Right.
entertainment requires responsibility. So can you
Inner.
imagine
Exactly.
inner you having
Inner.
to deal with what it is you're looking at, you being
Yep.
intentional about what it is that you're receiving, just like it is when you're eating your food or whatever it is. You are intentionally eating what you're eating. Now, even with
That's
food,
powerful.
even with food, people don't eat to live, right? They
They live
eat
to
to
eat.
come on.
What
They're
restaurant we
living,
gonna go to tonight? I'm a
they're I'm a
foodie.
foodie, okay? They're
Right,
living to eat. They're
right,
eating emotionally. We've all been in this place before. I'm
right,
just coming out of a space where I had switched my whole way of life. You know what I'm saying? But all of
right,
these things are because we don't deal with the inner
right,
tainment. See, the tainment. When I think about tainment, I think about containment, right? But they're
right.
or tainer, container. You know what's going on? Am I going to just allow myself to be forced into something, or am I going to intentionally deal with my inner man?
It's so true. And the Bible talks about how don't put no wicked thing before your eyes, your gateways. And I
Yes,
think people really don't understand how important that is to
they don't.
protect your gateway,
They don't.
because your gateways, your eyes, your ears, your emotions,
Your mouth,
those
all of
things
that.
are always being manipulated
They are.
by CNN, Fox,
Huh?
all the networks you watch,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, and it's just there really sincerely to dominate your
Yes.
ear gates and dominate your soul and your spirit. So it's hard because I love entertainment,
Yes.
and what I thought at one time was entertainment. I like creating stories, but I think what we've come to realize is that we have been living a self prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy, by taking in these projects and these films and these television shows and these news.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are living out what we have been projecting in our
Yes.
thoughts and our minds from
Yes.
watching that stuff.
Yes.
And so it's going to get worse before it gets better, because
It
we
is.
have to change the ship and to change. It took us what, how many years? 70, 80 years that the film industry has got us to this point. So
Maybe 100. Yeah.
So imagine the backlash from that 80 years of just toxic
Mm-hmm.
drama. And it's not just generational, this generation.
That's
It's
right.
the next several generations that's going
That's
to have
right.
to fight through this.
That's
And
right.
that's a part that people don't realize, that if we don't start making changes now,
Mm-hmm.
the inevitable is going to happen. And my fear is, because people have not protected their soul and their spirits, unless a group of us who have been silently, like myself,
Yes.
working to change that, unless a lot of us come out of the woods, like the scripture when it talks about Elijah, where you have 3,000 people that didn't bow to Baal, or those 300 Gideon who lapped like a dog, unless they come out
Absolutely.
and really fight, their plan is inevitable, which is destruction.
It is. And their purpose to be there, because men are not, they're not in their position. You know,
Absolutely.
They're not properly in their position. And so they have taken on this thing. And I hear a lot of people say this. I'm going to go a different path for a minute. A lot of men are not in church. Let's talk about that, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of the church as a system.
I'm not either.
Okay. Born and raised
that's another, before you go there,
yes.
I don't want to cut you off, sister.
Yes.
But before you go there, that's another reason, another place that they have used.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead.
Yeah. And so I'm getting ready to say, you know, they would make a whole lot of boast about, well, I ain't in there, I don't go there. But see, the reason why a lot of men don't go to church is because of the foolishness, right?
Right.
But they fail to realize all the other foolishness they're involved in.
Because NFL, NBA, all of
it. Foolishness. It's this foolishness, okay? Foolishness, okay?
Right.
It's this foolishness that is a form of war that the powers that think they be have utilized over
it's psychological war.
Rome, it's psychological warfare. Rome created this dynamic of the Colosseum and all of that, and people fighting to the death. And now we got it where people just videotape everything. They'll videotape you being killed. They videotape people fighting. It's the same concepts. It's the same foolishness. Okay, but here is the thing. In real life, absolutely, Mario, in real life, it's the same thing. But here's the thing. You don't recognize the foolishness that you're connected to outside of that. You can see that. And I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why it's much easier to see that. Because at least in church, there's some things that, you know, people are trying to pull on you to do. It's things that you don't want to do. And so because there are things, you want to do things your way, and you don't want to kind of come into community, which is another form that these things that are established create this system where men recluse. You know, that's where we get the whole man cave from, right? Because the man wants to be in this recluse place to do whatever makes him
recliner.
Right, whatever makes him feel good, you know. And now we've got these things where AI is being created. Now they went from the blow up dolls to now we're gonna have actual robotic females
that feels like a woman and actually treats you better than a woman. That's the marketing.
That's the marketing of it. But it's just that you've never run into a woman.
Right.
If you've not been treated right, and you've not had good relationship, it's because you've been trying to have relationship based on the fraudulent ideas and concepts you've received from the entertainment industry.
Kim Kardashian, porn, all that stuff, right?
You've received messages and ideas and concepts from a place that did not have your best interest at heart, right? And so now after all of these things, then men go into this counterfeit place. I always say that in relationship, you know, you always get, well, often, not always, but often people let the representative show up before the CEO of the person shows up, right? So this representative comes and the representative of the man is saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. And then eventually over time, the CEO, who he really is, shows up.
Right.
He doesn't have a whole lot to say anymore. He doesn't do a whole lot anymore. You know why? Because his position was, I'm just going from person to person so that I'll be received, because I haven't learned how to receive myself. Neither have I learned the purpose of my voice or my
Right.
person in the earth. I haven't learned my purpose. So because I haven't learned my purpose, I'm going from person to person. And when I become myself, I know most people don't want to deal with me because I'll never go all the way into that and allow somebody, you know what I'm saying? I'm looking for people that will just receive the false version of me. This is how you get to the mindset of the scarecrow, right? Where he doesn't believe he even has a mind. So you get in this place where it's like a woe is me. Can we talk about that for a minute? The man that's like in this woe is me. We want to talk to him tonight because you've gotten there via relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk specifically about the female. I want to speak specifically of your relationships with women, not the business relationships, not those partnerships. We want to speak directly to the fact that you keep choosing the wrong women. So after choosing the wrong women over and over again, now your life is different. But instead of coming to the place where you just own, you know what? I made some mistakes along the way. I've missed some things. Okay, so let me spend some time identifying what I missed, identifying who I am and why I'm choosing that, instead of just going into this place where I don't even have a brain. I don't even have a mind. You know how disheartening it is to run into a man that doesn't have an idea,
Ooh, man,
that doesn't have a vision.
Right.
It's a lot of good men that'll be listening to this podcast, that'll be looking at this, and even listening to it, as you were saying, you might, where you might put it, that are in this place where they're like, man, I don't have any ideas. You've got to first of all, if you're calling yourself a son of God, see, this is where the issue comes in at too, Carl, because a lot of people are calling themselves something, but they're not functioning in that. It's the same way they do relationships. I'm calling myself your dude, but I'm not functioning in that. I'm calling myself a son of God or a son of Yah, but I'm not functioning in that. See, everything has a reason why it functions the way that it functions.
Right.
And you got to tap into that. Can we talk to that guy that's like, you know what? I'm like the scarecrow. Now understand, he's now allowing the counterfeit, based on his experiences, to dictate to him the lifestyle that he's going to live. The scarecrow, he's up on this thing, the crows are talking. He's got all these big dreams, all this big vision, but he doesn't know how to implement anything. You know why? Because he's stuck in a place.
When you talk, it reminded me of me when I was trying to holler at you a few years ago.
This was over 20-something. This was
so I was on set shooting. I was directing a video for Dietrich Hatton, Gospel Superstar.
Yeah.
And I saw you come on the set, and
I was supposed to be singing that day, but I didn't have my babysitter fell through, so I just came and supported.
She came, supported. The kids were there. Your kids
were there.
In the video. They were babies. Yeah, they were babies. And I remember stepping to you, trying to do my thing, and then you was like, "Look, if you're not ready to take it to the next level and be serious, don't waste my time."
Period.
And I remember going back on the plane, coming back to Cali. I might have been living in Texas at the time, but I think I just moved to Cali.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting in my house, and I literally thought about that for a week. I was like, man, it scared me.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared because I didn't realize what it meant to talk to a woman of faith who was wife material versus a woman who you meet at the club.
Hello.
You're trying to use club dialect.
Don't do it.
Woman of God, it doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
So what happens when you do that, when you're looking for it to be a certain way, you keep chasing that monkey, the Kim Kardashian or the Beyonce. You're looking for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep getting chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos just keeps coming and coming. Then you wake up at 40 or 50 and you're watching, these videos on YouTube that are telling you it's the woman's fault or it's the man's fault, when it really is just your fault. You make bad decisions. You were afraid to step out on faith and be challenged. And I think a lot of times what men are afraid of is the challenge, because it reflects the things that need to be fixed in them. And then sometimes God will send you someone that will fix it with you or help you or be patient with you.
Oh, that's so good.
But if the ego is in that place of, I'm a man,
Oh, that's so
Or you
good,
can't
brother.
tell me nothing. Then what happens is you just keep creating chaos and chaos. And then
Mm.
you blaming women, you're blaming all these other things when it's really your appetite has been tainted.
Woo. Come
Yeah, I
on,
know that's
girl.
powerful, ain't it?
That's so good. That's you talking my language. And we need to delve into that, because the reality is this. Like you said, when you stepped to me, I was in a space. First of all, I'd already been married once.
Right,
I have 5 children.
right,
Like the reason I'm not in that relationship is because I don't need a sixth one.
right, right,
Okay, so this is not what we're about to do. First of all, the approach seems like you are expecting something that I'm not going to give,
right,
right? And so I want to know what your purpose is. And like you're saying, it's the challenge part. The thing about it is, man, you're going to be challenged either way. Let me tell you how you're going to be challenged
You
either way.
are. Absolutely. I
You're,
agree.
you're going to be challenged up front with a real woman because she's going to
Right,
want to know what your intentions are. She's going to want you to be very forthright, very open, and very intentional about telling her what is it that you want and what is it that your plan is.
right,
So you can deal with that challenge, right? Or you can deal with the challenge of 5 baby mamas and child
right.
support.
Exactly. That's
Your
true.
whole life being
That
turned
is a hundred
upside
percent.
down
Absolutely.
because you won't function. You're functioning with a scarecrow mentality.
Right.
You've got vision, you've got dreams, and some of you really have considered, you know what, I could really be married and really love somebody, but because you have this wiring
It's the
that you
wire.
won't
Absolutely.
address.
Right.
It's the wiring that you won't address, whether it was whatever age you grew up in, you know.
Because I believe, can I say this? Is it okay
Mm-hmm.
if I can interject this? I believe that there are great men and great women of God, but I feel like God somewhat protects them.
Yes, that's right.
He protects them people who are not ready because God's not gonna let you mess up his people. He's not
But
gonna
he,
let you do it. So
but
what
he
he'll
will, but he
do,
will allow a female to mess you up because of your
well, what I
appetite
was
and
gonna
that
say was
appetite.
your free will
Thank
allow
you.
you to do
Come
that.
on.
Not God. This is the free
Yeah.
will. Because you
Yes.
have a choice. So you can
You have a
choose to
choice.
go, I'm gonna go over here to Bible study with this young lady who won't give me none. Or I'm gonna go hang out with this girl who I think gonna give me some, and
Hello.
she's, you know what I mean? It's kind of like
Yes.
I always compare it to food. If you eat healthy,
Yes.
sometimes the food is not great to
Mm-hmm.
taste, but it's great for your body.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you eat something that's tastes great, but it's killing your body. And that's how Satan works. He
That's
likes to
how it
give
works.
you the
Yeah.
great stuff up front and then you pay for it at the end.
Yeah.
God likes to prepare you for what he's about to give you first.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. And really, when we're talking about appetite, the reality is it doesn't taste good to you now because your appetite is wrong. Your
The taste
taste,
bud.
your
Right.
taste buds are off.
Right.
So what would taste good to you with right taste buds tastes bad to you because your taste buds are off.
Now let me say this.
Yes.
That don't mean you can't marry or be with someone that you're attracted to. It doesn't
No,
mean
oh,
that.
please, no.
Go get what you like.
Listen, first of all, the Father knows what we have
Right.
need of. He knows
Right.
those things. And so I'm
Right.
not from the school of thought where it's like, oh, well, just take this ugly broad
No,
and
no,
be
no.
okay. No, no, no.
Nope.
We all need to
Right.
take the time to have presentation because man does look on the outward appearance. But what I want to say to you is the mindless one, the scarecrow,
Right.
he's so mindless that he just stays on the surface.
Right.
Okay.
That part.
You got to get past the place where you just acknowledge the beauty outwardly.
That
Because
part.
a real woman wants to hear you say who she is to you.
That part.
Not just you're beautiful, because it's a lot of women that are beautiful.
Yeah. Dime a dozen. A dime a penny.
It's
A
a
penny a
lot of
dozen.
it's a lot of beautiful women, but how does that make me special to you because I'm beautiful?
Right. That
What
part.
is it about me that you are attracted to besides just my exterior?
Right.
Talk to me about that. Speak to that part of me. But if you have a scarecrow's mind,
Come on.
you can't even conceive that.
But it's like what you said earlier, it's the wiring.
It's the wiring.
It's the wiring. So how do you change the wiring? Well, the question I would ask you, how does one change the wiring?
Right. So how do we change the wiring? One, we're dealing with the scarecrow, right? So let's deal with it from the scarecrow perspective. First of all, he's got to come down off of this limitation. Okay. And if we're talking about believers, then the only way off of the limitation is relationship, right? The first relationship is simple. It's the relationship with Yah. You know what I'm saying? That relationship is a priority. It's a priority, and it's the only way. People texting me from everywhere. The only way that you're going to get authentic relationship with a woman is to have authentic relationship with the Father.
Right.
And that's really serious, because you'll never know who she is. You'll never identify and appreciate the essence. Matter of fact, you won't even realize the favor that she's brought to you.
Yeah, that's what I posted the other day on Facebook.
Did you? Yeah. You will not understand the favor that she's brought to you until you understand the God that gave her the favor to bring.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And so first he has to come off of this limitation, which is that little stoop that you put the scarecrow up, right? Because his whole job is to what? Scare away the crows from eating. Let's dig into that for a minute. His job in that setting is to scare away the crows from eating the crops. Right? But his mindset doesn't go past that. He only has one mode. He's only got one mode. Men, you have more than one mode. Okay? I put up something today. Be a creator. Be a cultivator. Be an unmuted man. Why? Because your voice is powerful.
Right.
And it's funny that you can use your voice to scare away things that you feel like are, beneficial. And sometimes they're really not. But, you're scaring away the things that are beneficial to you. But for some reason, the thing that benefits you the most, you don't want to be connected. Because, again, it goes back to responsibility again, right? It goes back to and responsibility scares men. Responsibility scares the male.
Not a man, right.
Not a man.
But a male, yes.
You may be a male, but you may not be a man yet. It's not until responsibility doesn't horrify you that it defines you as a man. Because having all the right parts doesn't make you any more a man than a man that wants to be a woman, so goes and gets all the right parts. He'll never be a woman.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Because having the parts is not what make you that.
That's the part that the trans are missing, but we're gonna save that for another day.
We'll save it. Yeah, we're gonna table it. We just kind of hit on it. We hit on it, and see, that's how you know it's not natural.
Right.
That's how you know it's not normal.
Right.
Because how do you turn a dog into a cat? Because he can say meow. It's not gonna happen. Even if you train the rooster to say roof, roof, and roosters talk. I made my roosters, when I had roosters, I literally gave them the crow I wanted them to have, because if they got lost, I wanted to be able to find them. And I wanted to make sure that I knew the difference between mine and my neighbors or anybody else's. So there are birds that can communicate, but their communication in no way makes them a human.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
In no way. What makes you that is the intentionality and the personality.
Right.
Of the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm intentional about how I'm functioning. I'm intentional about, what I'm desiring. My maturity even.
Right.
Maturity makes a man.
Right.
Okay? So this scarecrow, he has to come up off of his limitations first. And he has to realize and own some things. You got something to add to that?
No, I agree with everything you said. And I think that the other issue is changing the mindset from expecting other people to fix stuff for you that you have to fix yourself. I think that we have been so guilty of wanting to either blame others or
finger.
Or we want to find someone that can help us. But the truth is, coaching is great, it's nice, but at some point you have to make a decision. It's kind of like people who want to lose weight. You can lose weight. You can say you want to lose weight all day, but until you get up at 4 a.m.
and go running
or
bike riding or whatever
and do it consistently, ain't nothing gonna change. You can do all the coaching you want, it's not gonna change. So I think the mind has to accept the fact that you are responsible for creating the life that you want. And until you accept that, then you're going to continuously repeat the pattern. And as the old saying goes, when you repeat something, that's the sign of insanity.
Yeah. Well, you were
So
repeating it and you want something different.
right, that's the sign of insanity. So yeah, that's what I would add to the scarecrow. To
And
the
the
scarecrow.
insanity piece, Carl, goes back to the fact that we've been trained.
Right.
It's like Pavlov's dog, you know.
I had
We've
a
been,
I had a I had a person I dated.
hmm
She's now deceased. So I say this with respect,
yeah.
but I remember she had this thing where she used to like to watch Desperate Housewives when it would come on television, and I would tell her I didn't even know spiritually the stuff I know now, right?
hmm
But I used to tell her, I said, a show called Desperate Housewives is in itself a spell,
It is.
just the title,
It is.
and she would argue me down. No, 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 this is just entertainment. It's just great. People got to remember what you put into your mind is the same thing as what you put into your body.
Come on.
What you feed your mind is no different than what you feed your stomach.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're feeding your mind mindless stuff, what you consider mindless stuff,
Whew.
your brain don't think it's mindless.
No, no,
Your
no. Your brain
brain
is
is actually
processing.
processing it like a computer as if it's real information,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is. That's why now
That's the facts.
yeah, that's facts. And that's why now my daughter, she's 8, and she's so good at this, man. She will, if there's something that don't feel right, she even got to
Mm-hmm.
hear it. She'll go, Dad, turn it off. That don't feel right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or if she hear a song or a melody or a lyric, I didn't teach her this. She just saw how I interact with her. Her mom
Mm-hmm.
interacts with her the same. And she was like, she just started picking up on the vibes of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people are so
They
mindless
don't
that they
even
don't
pick
even
up on the vibe.
pick up on the vibe of something.
Listen.
That tees me off is how many people who listen to this new song from Beyonce, a song called Break My Soul.
Listen.
And these stupid are
Stupid.
listening to this spell and dancing to it, and this girl is laughing at you guys.
She's laughing.
She's laughing at you.
This is her job. She's
She's
doing what she is.
laughing at you.
She's following her purpose in the earth. She's following it to the T.
People are so
Mindless.
ignorant when it comes to that
Mindless.
stuff. It upsets me because I've gotten to so many different arguments about art versus what's she trying to say. And I'm like, idiot, read the lyrics.
Read the lyrics.
Just read the lyrics and understand what definition of words are and how you phrase words. Another person that's good at that is Sting. I used to be a big fan of Sting.
Yes, absolutely.
And he's like a warlock with his
He's
words.
a master warlock with that, okay? But
His words,
the truth of the matter is, if you really look at the industry, now we own industry.
Frequency.
That's what I'm about to do. It's about
music.
It's about frequency.
The frequency of the music.
If you are mindless, if you are less your mind, you will be entertained by that, but you will not understand what you're feeding yourself.
You're killing yourself.
You are killing yourself.
You're literally committing suicide.
And they know that you don't know that because you haven't taken the time to even identify what your real purpose is. They know that most people just want to feel good. And I say this all the time, that there's 2 things that the enemy uses to destroy people the most: comfort and convenience. Comfort and convenience are 2 of his greatest weapons. Making you comfortable, vibe. Let's go back to vibe for a minute. Because when you're mindless, you can't even pick up, because what you're looking for is something to make you feel good. So as long as it speaks to your appetite in the moment, you miss the moment to identify what it is. I said this the other day. I was talking about the fact that people are dealing with people. You're not identifying the spirit of the person. You're dealing with what they're doing for you.
Right.
Or what they're giving to you. Right. And so that's how you're judging the relationship, is based on what they're giving you, not what you're picking up spiritually.
Right.
And that's why relationships end. That's why they, go in these that's why so much divorce, because people were more interested in what they were receiving than what they could get in the relationship.
They got into it for the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons. Because the first part of relationship is what you can give in the situation,
right,
not what you can receive. So if you're a man and receiving is the first part of the relationship, it's already off.
Right.
It's already off.
Well, people miss also in marriage, you're actually created to serve.
That's what I mean.
And when you don't want to serve, then marriage ain't for you.
It's not.
It's not for you. And so that's the biggest mistake people make. People go into marriage thinking that it's there to create your fantasy ideal of being given all of the things that you desire. And then when they don't get it, they get disappointed and they leave marriages.
And that comes from the porn and all the stuff that you watched. You know, you want your wife to hang from the chandelier. Guess what?
Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives. All this
the
new
reality
TV.
shows.
That's what I was going to say. All the reality TV, all of that. And the thing about it
And
is,
they did that purposely, just so
did.
you know. They did this purposely because they wanted to break up the family. And I know someone, I won't say her name because she told me this in confidence.
Yes.
But there's someone who works at CNN, a white lady, and she told me this in Santa Monica the other day. She said that, and I'm going to be very candid how I say this, but she said that they literally put frequencies in the feed that make you feel negative.
That's right.
And hooks you to keep watching.
People
literally practice scientifically what that frequency should sound like.
Yes.
They know the number, the phrasing, the words that you need to hear that keeps you in a trance to keep watching. Now, if they're doing this with CNN and Fox, imagine what they're doing with all the other networks that are playing all the negativity that you listen to and the music.
Now, you know what most people would say, well, I'm just watching this show and it's an old show and it's really not, but you don't understand. This has been the whole reason for it.
They've been doing this since the 1930s.
Listen, this is not new.
You can go watch an old Jack Lemmon movie from 1963 and you'll see the number 666 in some of the scenes in the building. And the music is happy and Frank Sinatra sounding and it's cool, right? And it's G-rated movie. And you'll see the symbolism for certain secret societies, I won't say.
Yeah.
And you'll see them in the movies. Like, it's right there. They've been doing this since before I was born.
This is what's funny. Because most people will say, well, this is too deep. You're getting too deep, but that's why you're stuck.
That's why you're stuck.
Because you're not conscious. So when I talk about the Scarecrow, I'm talking about a man that's not conscious.
Right.
I'm talking about a man that's not awake.
Blindly doing things, blindly. They say the blind leading the blind. No, they're not blind. They know exactly what they're doing. They're just leading you and keeping you blind.
Hello. I'm gonna let you guys know real quickly. You can actually call in. Every now and then I'm gonna tell you can call in if you got something you want to add to, or you got a question that you want to ask. If you're a man and you got a question that you want to ask us, listen, I'm gonna put the number down here so that you guys can call in. I want you to feel free to call in and ask questions because we're here for you. This is what we're here for. Men and women can ask questions. You can ask whatever question you want to ask. You know, y'all know me. If you got a question, I got an answer, and that's the kind of people I roll with.
Right.
Okay. That's the kind of people I roll with. People that, you know, if you got a question, we got an answer. Okay. I'm gonna put it back up there. I'm gonna make it a ticker because I don't like that big old situation that was just messing all my graphics up. We ain't doing that. No. We're not doing that. You can feel free to call in. So we're dealing with the Scarecrow, right?
Yes.
And it's about mindset, you know. And so I started out with the whole, you know, we hear the phrase "practice makes perfect," but I think a lot of people are thinking that they're thinking of it as in terms of this. You know, it's going to kind of create on its own because you practice, but it's still an intention behind it. So the words that I heard today was practice makes permanence. And not only does practice make permanence, it makes purpose. Okay, because whatever we're doing, purposefully doing, we're permanent. There's an indelible impression that's being made. So say, for instance, you know this is why this whole age of women, or females, I should say, in this case, because not all women, real sassy, you know, real clapbacky, you know what I mean? Real, no respect. Right. They don't have none of that. You know, everything is about what they want. And if they're not getting what they want because they've never identified that they could give anything besides their vagina.
That's it.
Okay. And so because they haven't identified themselves, they find the simps or the simple ones. And the Bible refers to you as a simp. That's not something that, listen, in Proverbs, okay?
You went 313 on them.
Listen, in Proverbs, He says, I identified, I looked out my window and I saw this
A
young
simp.
one, a simp, going down the way to her
That's
house.
Proverbs 7.
Proverbs chapter 7. I want to see
Yeah.
if you knew the chapter. Absolutely. You've come a long way, Carl. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. Oh my God. Listen, I haven't been calling you Minister Carl all these years for nothing. You've been proving that thing, okay? Proving that. So I saw the simp, you know, and he says he's blindly going in this direction. That's what makes you mind. That's what puts you in the position.
And then he's trapped like a bird in a snare and
Come
can't
on.
get out.
And can't get out.
He was so goofy that he didn't even know that the whole thing was a setup. And that's the thing that I think most men, and I'm talking about men because I feel like it's not my job to really speak on women.
Yeah.
That's your job.
No,
But
we can do both. You can do both. Go ahead. Knock it out.
Think
Say
that's
what you
why
feel.
I'll just say people. I think that's the main reason why people end up in these snares, because the Bible talks about you're drawn away with your own lust.
And enticed.
So when you desire something, first ask the Father, is this
your
aligned
desire
with you? Or is this desire something that has been put in my head, planted in my head to desire? Because a lot of people don't even desire what they think they desire.
Come on
the
now.
seed was planted in your head.
It was
through
planted.
a song, through a movie, through a bad situation in childhood. Seeds are planted.
Yep.
And I always tell people the biggest thing that it appears that the devil beats God on is marketing.
Come on.
If you look at a McDonald's hamburger, my daughter, when she was, toddler, she knew that McDonald's sign before she could read. So the devil's marketing is genius.
It's genius.
But that's a seed that's being planted. And I think that people don't understand how many seeds that are being planted in their heads, and they thinking they're making decisions that they've came up with, and it's nowhere near your decision. It's not even the God makeup of who you are.
It's not.
But you think it's you because you're saying it, but you're quoting a script that was written for you. You're quoting a script, and you think it's your idea when it's not even your idea.
Listen, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's another thing that he dealt with me on, was the whole script. Now, the opposite of script, or the extension of that, the original, is scripture, right?
Right.
So any other script that you're receiving, whether it's a news script, a TV script, whatever it is, it's been twisted. Now, that's not all scripts, because he writes movies. I'm a writer. I love story, all of that. A good writing is, but it has purpose. That's what I'm trying to get to you.
Why scripture? Why scripture though?
Yes.
Because scripture, thy word have I hid in my heart. So when you're writing something that's scripted, your heart and your head is taking it as real.
Yes.
It's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's scripture. That's why when you write something down, it happens. When you speak positive and think positive, you write it down or think of it. It's been scientifically proven that they've had two NBA players. One was training and the other one wasn't, and they both saw themselves winning. One just was working for it, and the other one was thinking about it. And they both had the same numbers at the end of the game. One did not practice; they just thought about it. Think about what I'm saying. How powerful the brain is when you write something in it. So if I'm a multi-millionaire and I'm going to spend the money to help homeless people, then that's what's going to happen. But if you're writing in your mind, I can't find no good woman, or I can't find no good husband, or I'm not fit to ever have the job that I want, or I can't have the marriage that I desire, then you're writing that too. You're writing that story. And I think that people don't understand that some of the things that you're thinking, you're not even writing it. Someone else is writing it.
Someone else wrote it.
Who is that someone else?
Who is that? You know what it made me think of? You remember Saturday Night Live when, what's his name used to be on there? He was like, say.
Right.
Say. Y'all,
The
I'm
way
trying to
you did it, you sound just like Dana Carvey.
say,
Man,
I'm
that
trying to
was
fix this thing,
funny.
y'all. I don't know why it's not allowing you guys to call in, but I am going to fix it. Matter of fact, no, I ain't doing that. Get down, grandson. Um, Give me a second here, Carl. I was about to say something real foolish. You know what? I'm just gonna give y'all my number. The devil is a
No,
whole
don't
lie.
do that.
He's a whole liar.
And you know not to give my number.
Oh my God. Okay. Get down, grandson. Wait, I'm gonna figure this out. Go ahead and try to call in again, whoever those are. I see that they're texting me and saying that it's not going through. That
Satan?
say, Dana Carey. Who is
Dana
that?
Carvey was a beast.
A beast, okay?
He was a beast.
I am live and you're not going to talk. Listen, she's on her way and her mother's bringing pizza. I would not tell a lie. It is so. Believe me when I tell you it is so. Okay? This is real.
They can ask their. I'm seeing a chat. Can they ask questions in the
They
chat?
can. You guys, in the meantime, go ahead and ask the question. Let's
Or
talk
is it a
about
private
verbal
chat?
castration and Jezebel's eunuchs. Right. Right. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. I'm trying. It's busy. Say. Okay. Listen. Talk, Carl, for a minute. Go ahead and talk. Talk a little bit further about the mind thing. Whatever else comes to your mind. Matter of fact, I can give you something to go off of if you need me to. Let's talk about exposure for a minute because we were kind of leaning on that a little bit. But the way to this is the secondary answer to how does that person get out of that position. First, you got to come off of this pedestal of what was the word I said? What's the word that I use? Come off of this pedestal of inability. I mean, it's something that's preventing you. This thing that's preventing you. You got to step out of that. But also now you got to expose yourself to something other than what you've been exposed
Someone
to.
just put in. Yes, it keeps saying the devil is a lie.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna fix it. But talk to the fact that the secondary answer to that is what we expose ourselves to. We've now got to reintroduce ourselves to new information because, like you're saying, the brain does not make a difference.
Right.
We're thinking we're making a difference. Oh, I'm just vegging out. Oh, I'm just chilling. But your brain is not making a difference.
No.
Your brain is processing that. So what do we need to do to come out of this position of mindlessness as a man? Exposure. It's all about exposing yourself to the proper things.
That's really good. That's a really good question. So there's a author by the name of Jeff Alskener, I think his name is. He's actually going to be a guest on my next podcast. He wrote a book called The Return to Source. And I suggest everybody get that book. I've read it, and let me tell you, it was things I already knew, but to hear how he phrased it and how he put it really changed my life. And so the first thing you want to do is stop listening to the people that they keep forcing you to look at. Now, I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say names because it's not about bashing anybody. But if it's a preacher, if it's an actor, if it's a TV show that they keep forcing on you, I'm talking about forcing. If they're forcing it on you, stop listening. That's the first thing because they're spelling over you. Period. I don't care. I don't care who the pastor's name is. I don't care if he's in your face all the time, got a lot of television broadcast, money, and can be seen everywhere. He is spelling over you because they are in every industry, from church to film to television to medical industry to politics,
science, everything. It's all religion. And I want you to reiterate that because again, I started out with men don't go to church, and this is why. But a lot of men that don't go to church don't realize how they're being mind screwed in other ways.
NBA, NFL, hockey, doesn't matter. They're all a part of it. And the part that people don't understand is this. They think that when they say God, they mean Elohim or Yeshua. But they have a version of light and darkness, right? So when you see light and you see darkness, you see the two-tone floor, black and white. they're talking about the same demon or devils or devils. They're not talking about the supreme. They're talking about their version of light and their version of darkness. That's how much they control so much of it. So the first thing I would tell people, stop listening. Second thing I tell people to do is find some kind of way to get to a park, get outside in nature, and start listening. And when I say listen, meaning nothing on, just listening, letting that still small voice that's in all of us talk to you and speak to you. It's there. Trust me. I didn't think I had one. I really didn't. I thought I was like, nah, I can't hear it. Oh, I hear it. And it gets louder and louder daily as I'm able to do my work. That's how my company grew so fast. As I stopped listening to this, that, and the other. And I started shutting all that out. And I started listening to that inner voice because it's inside of all of us. That's the second thing I do. Third thing I would do is try to find a way to retrain yourself because a lot of things are just habits. It's not that you want to do it. You kind of know in your heart, this don't sound right, or this don't feel right, or I don't like this, or I don't want to eat this. So you got to retrain your mind. The renewing of your mind, the scripture talks about. Renewing your mind, renewing how you see things. Renewing. So as an example, if you like me, I guess one of my things was I did you leave? Did you leave? This ain't my show, is it? This ain't my show now. Come on
I'm
now.
here. I'm just gonna put you in the window for a moment while I figure
Okay.
out this Google Voice thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. You're
So
knocking it down. Go ahead.
okay, cool. So I'm not taking over your show. So renew your mind um, by listening to training your thoughts, and how I've trained my thoughts is I literally will not take in anything that makes me feel a certain way. See, a lot of people like to talk about how you shouldn't follow your feelings. Ignore your feelings. What they're really saying is ignore God. Ignore that feeling that you feel on the inside is telling you something is off. They're not really talking about the emotional part because if they really were talking about emotions, then they wouldn't keep blasting all over Facebook and Instagram all these fight videos. So they want you to be emotional, but they want you to be enraged, angry, upset, or frustrated or depressed. That's why they're talking about depression so much on TV. That's why they talk about take this medicine and take that medicine because they want you to be basically helpless without God, no feeling of God, no feeling of self, no feeling of self-worth. And so to connect to God, you have to reconnect to source. And it's not the God that you see when you go to church. And that's hard. I know that's hard for people to comprehend sometimes because, we're trained Sunday morning, go to service, worship, listen to this pastor, listen to that gospel artist. This Maverick City thing that everybody's on right now, this Maverick City thing, it's like I'm surprised. I'm not surprised about it because I saw Kirk in it, but I'm surprised at how many people that are believing that it's godly. It's not. It's evil. It's so evil. It's almost. To me, it's almost laughable how evil the Maverick City thing is.
Not just
Because
them. It's the other. What's the other one that came right before them? You know who I'm talking about.
Hillsong.
It's
Oh
another
yeah,
one, and it's another one that came after them. The point that you're making is the fact that, and this is why we're still on the Scarecrow, because the mind is just being wasted. And the enemy knows how to create a dynamic that fits what you like. Talking about
right,
appetites, right? So he wants to go after what you like. So okay,
right.
you like worship, that's fine. But it's a whole lot of people, a whole lot of things you can worship. But so you don't want to worship your car, but I'm going to give you the God that I want you to worship.
And that God is Satan.
Listen, I'm going to go back and try to figure this thing out. Matter of fact, I might put something else up on the screen for you guys to call in on. Keep going, Carl. I'll be right back.
Hillsong, Maverick City, their lyrics, if you listen to the lyrics, is it worship mob? I've never heard of worship mob. I haven't heard of that. But so I don't want to speak on something I never heard of. But I can say that Mav City, all those things are evil. And you can actually tell if you look at the lyrics because Someone said, yes, speak, sir. Well, thank you, Singer Rain. I don't know who that is, but thank you for saying that. I think if you look at the lyrics, like there's this new song from Map City that's really big right now. It might be the song before the one that just came out. But there's if you read the lyrics, this is how they get you. It's the lyrics. Because the lyrics have double meaning. See? So someone can say, I give example. I'm not dogging Kirk Franklin, so please don't get mad at me. But there's an album he has out called Hello Fear. And if you listen to the song Hello Fear, it's singing to fear. Now, on the surface, it's like he's saying, Hello Fear, I am saying you're not welcome into my world and blah, blah, blah. But it's actually, in my opinion, that is another interpretation of a spell. Why do you need to be talking to fear? Fear has no place where God lives. So there's no reason to talk to fear. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind. So you just kind of have to go with the feeling of something and the lyrics. The lyrics are telling you who they're talking to and who they work for. And I hate saying it because it sounds like you're hating on people. It sounds like you're trying to
what? It's real.
Respect people,
It's real though. Guess what? It's real though. And if people do not hear these things, it's the same thing with men not being able to accept that, okay, somebody's calling me, that females are not all inherently good. We heard sugar and spice and everything nice. We heard all of those things. That was a spell. You were being trained in a way. And so now, even when you see there's something wrong, now you're thinking it's right. You're going to make it right because in your mind, you've been trained that women are, sugar and spice and everything nice, and men are snakes and snails and puppy dog tails.
Right.
Hello.
When people get upset, though, I've realized it's part of the spell.
It is.
The spell has them under this mind control that they're supposed to defend nonsense. Because truth actually sets you free. It doesn't make you feel angry. When you hear the truth, it's supposed to set you free. So if you're not feeling free, that means that whatever truth you heard, the spell did not like it. The spell was afraid of it. So that's why people fight you when you talk about Beyonce. Why people fight you if you say anything about, anybody's name. I'm not going to say preachers' names, but if you say anybody's name, I only said Kirk because of the song Hello Fear. That's a very great analogy. But if for the most part, people don't like when you say this person is possibly working for the other side. But it's just true.
The truth is what makes us free.
It's a whole cult. It's like, it's not even, to me, it's funny that God chose me to be in this industry because what I've seen.
Me too.
It's like weird because I'm like, okay, come on now, God, you got a sense of humor. But I think why he chose me to be in this industry is because
Hold on 1 second, Patricia.
Every industry deals with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Satan loves media.
He does.
He loves the media because he can be seen.
Here's what the Bible says. It says faith comes by hearing. So media was even the Father's.
I like this, what this person said. We must be careful not to worship.
Yes. Even what the Father does is media. But it's what station are you listening to?
Right.
One of the people that's connected to me and I'm connected to in this season, I love her because she always says this thing. I don't listen to the radio. That's her phrase when she's saying, you know what I'm saying? I'm not buying that.
I'm not following the trend. Right.
She's on the line now, and I don't know if she has a question or she wants to add something to this, but Patricia is on the line. Go ahead, Patricia. Tell us where you're calling from and give us your comment.
Hey. I am calling from Portland, Oregon. Can you hear me?
Can you hear her, guys?
Yes.
Can you hear her clearly?
Hello? Yes, I can hear her.
Okay, go ahead.
Two things. One thing is, you just listening to the podcast, I am just reminded that the Bible says God came that he could bear fruit and bear it more abundantly. And I think what we have to understand is that, number one, we're a seed, but then we begin to plant seeds with our life.
Yes. Yes, that's good.
And what my question is this, what I'm seeing is, and it's not, I see it a lot with males, but females as well. How do we get people to the place where they actually sit down long enough to be taught for the transformation to occur? Because what I see is consistently people come in, and if things are not moving, because we're in this microwave generation, if it doesn't happen immediately, they don't sit. They don't wait to be processed. And you can't rush God. So how do we rewire the next generation to understand that some things are not going to come without time?
That's a powerful question.
That's a great question.
That's a powerful question. One of the things I want to say to that is the fact that, because we're dealing with next generation, if we're dealing with the current generation that has enough understanding to move as adults or to move in a place of maturity, then I would say that has to be a personal decision. But the way that war happens, one of the war tactics of darkness is to go after the children. This is why you have people that are connected to Disney. I'm going to put more homosexual stuff in the movies. I'm going to put more, undertone. I'm going to make sure that undertone is there, that the overarching theme is there. So we've got to begin to go after the children. And we were talking about this the other day, Patricia. The reality is we need more cartoons. We need more books. And I'm not just talking about Christian cartoons. That's not what I'm dealing with. Y'all can have that. I don't want that. Okay. Right. I'm talking about stuff that is a reality. I'm talking not religion. I'm talking about teaching people how to relate. Right. Now, the Bible is my choice. It's my foundation. But the Bible was not written for religion. It's not a religious book. Okay, it's not a religious book. It's about a king and his kingdom. So you got to give people the opportunity to identify the kingdom that they can come into, right? And be free from all of this other nonsensical stuff that's out there. So we have to go after the children. And a lot of times we got to realize that the parents are not going to do it. So we've got to put enough media in place that reaches the different levels of the generations, so that we can begin to portray the message of the king in practical ways. Not just quoting Bible verses, but actually revealing the king to people, just like the master sat and he spoke to the multitudes. He wasn't quoting verses. He wasn't saying, yo, I'm the son of God. Let me just spit some stuff to y'all real quick. He was sharing parables. And a parable is just a story, right, that is created that has earthly meaning. It's like Aesop's fables. You understand what I'm saying? Aesop's fables were for the purpose of giving you the moral of the story, right? And so we've got to create that kind of dynamic for people so that the children are able, because nobody's stopping them from this. Nobody. They've all got them in their hands. They've all got them, and they're all looking at them, and nobody's standing over them. So we have to put things in a place where they can reach it, where it can get to them, and it's impactful. That means we have to take the time to relate to them, to know what they like, what they're looking for, and all of those things, and package it in a way. See, this takes the wisdom of God to package it in a way, right? This is strategy. That doesn't just happen. Strategy is divine. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead, Carl.
And I was just going to add to what you said. The only thing I was going to say was we also need Christian billionaires, because the billionaires that own iPhone, Windows, these people we call them the elite, but they're Satanists. So what they're going to ultimately do with these phones and these technology-driven pieces, they're going to be the gateway of closing that down if you're speaking from the Father. So what we have to have is ask God to rain from heaven and bring billionaires that have his heart, and let them go into technology, let them go into spiritual things, film, television, because we need not just visual content. We need the hardware, we need the phones, we need the internet, we need all of it to be refurbished so that everything that is being put out is being controlled by not Christians, no, Jesus.
Believers. I know you said it once, but you didn't mean that. I was okay with it. I was like, he didn't mean that, but it's okay.
Right. No, not Christians, but people that are from the Father.
Believers.
Big difference.
Sons.
Big difference. And what we're doing, we're building right now. We've got a bunch of acres, and we're getting ready to build a 600,000 square feet campus, where we're going to be promoting and not just film and television, but we're going to get into tech. because I think that's going to be the key. It's one thing to talk about it, but if we're still dependent on the elite billionaires to let us do what we want to do, then that's not us working for the kingdom. That's us working for still Satan. My thing is we got to get out of the Satan's camp and really ask God for direction of how we can refurbish for the next generation. Because if we don't, the inevitable will happen.
Absolutely. It's so key because
but we can do it in prayer. We can do it with prayer.
Oh yeah. It starts
we come
there.
together and ask the Father. We're more powerful with prayer and God giving us the inventions than we are by begging these Satanists to give us money to do this, because they're not going to do it.
It's so funny because while we're at this place that we're at, we have to realize that we got to first start beginning to have conversations. Like when my grandchildren are watching television and I'm sitting with them, allowing them to watch or watching what they're watching, we're having conversations. So that's one place that you can start now, is by having the conversations, because you can literally plant the opposite seed. Where something else has been planted, you can plant the seed that needs to be planted to choke out what else is trying or attempting to be planted, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. But that piece of prayer, that's so important. And for so long, Carl, people have not understood the power of prayer. I did something a couple of years ago called 24/7. I don't know, you probably seen it. The 24/7 task force. People didn't take that seriously. Right. And then right after that, here comes COVID, right?
Right. Yeah, we talked about it right before COVID started.
Hello. Thank you. Absolutely. I got you, Patricia. Thank you so much for making space. Listen, here we go, right? So here we go. But nobody took it seriously. Now everybody crying and screaming and, oh my God, what are we supposed to do? And listening to what the media is telling them to do and not understanding what they're supposed to be doing, because they're supposed to be sons that hear from the God that they say they serve, right?
Right.
So he can definitely give. And as a matter of fact, it's on one of my prayer itineraries that my intercessors were praying over for the last 5 or 6 years. All the stuff that you just mentioned, those are things that we think are impossible. You understand what I'm saying? Right. But they are possible. Right. Where there's a radio, there is a general radio, my brother calls it, a general station. We can all tap into that, because if we're mankind, we were made in the likeness and image of God, right? So there's a general station. And then you have to understand that a lot of the things that people have gotten came from another station. It came from back information. It came from the watchers. It came from those that were standing in the presence of God, that knew intimate details about things. These people are hearing from dark places. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You've got to position yourself to hear. It's all supernatural. Yeah. But we would much rather look at superheroes than become them. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, absolutely. That's the praise part. We would much rather look at superheroes than become them, than understand what our real identity is. Okay? When a master was raised from the dead, he walked through walls. Before he died, he walked on water. There's a purpose for everything. Now, people that don't do things for purpose, but only for the purpose of drawing your attention, those are witches.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how you can identify who they are, because there's no purpose there. The master didn't walk on the water in front of thousands of people.
Right.
He did it in front of his disciples.
Right.
Why? Because he wanted them to tap into something.
He wanted them to do it, right.
He wanted them to tap into something that he was tapped into.
Right.
The miracles he wanted them to see. He did miracles in front of people because he wanted them to see that the Father was who he was, and that he had been given this power. Same power that all sons have been given. This is the charge. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Going out and making disciples, right? Somebody's calling in. I don't know. Let me see if it's working. You're on the Unmuted Man podcast. Are you calling in for Unmuted Man?
Yes.
It is working. Go ahead. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I am calling from Atlanta.
Okay.
Destiny.
Oh, that sounds like my daughter. That's my daughter. Okay. Talk to us, baby. What's your question or what's your comment?
Okay. My question is, why do men, they ghost a good woman?
Ooh,
and what I mean by that is, like, they know that they're good, like they'll entertain it like wow, like a woman will do anything for them. The woman will be doing anything and everything for them. They'll see that this woman is white material. They'll see that this woman is worth putting, that time in. This woman is worth them changing. This woman is worth them marrying. And they'll say that. They'll act like they're going to do it and leave that woman on. And then they'll ghost them and go to the other woman. And then when they figure out that doesn't work out, they'll come back and then they'll ghost them again. Why do they do that?
I'm gonna let you speak to that. I have a comment, but I want you to go first on a man.
You sure? You can go ahead.
On a man ghosting a good woman because you're a man.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get it firsthand right now.
Women not gonna want to hear this.
Okay, go ahead. Talk. Tell them.
But I'm gonna tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he just doesn't like you. Period. When a man really likes a woman, he ain't gonna ghost her. He don't want nobody to touch her.
Hello.
He's like almost get on your nerve. He's so jealous almost.
Mm-hmm.
And not jealous in a negative way, like he wants to beat you or subjugate you.
Mm-hmm.
But I just meant he's very like, hey, he want everybody to know this is mine,
So let me ask you a question. So could we then say that's an assignment of darkness?
Absolutely. Because a lot of times things, and I learned this the hard way, some things are not good or bad. It's just distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Devil will just send a distraction and you be going, but he wasn't evil. He may not be. But the devil knows how to send distraction so that you're not focused on your purpose, or you're about to meet your husband, but this is your interception so that you don't create family. Because that's all the devil's about. If you really look at abortion, it was really just about them wanting to stop life, God. Because that's why they're all of a sudden now talking about vasectomies. Because it's cutting off life. So when a man is ghosting you, but then coming back, he's coming back because you're allowing it. If you don't want to play the game, then you step out of the casino room.
You jump out of the arena.
When you done with Vegas, you go home.
Hello.
You don't go, Vegas took all my money. I wonder why they took my money. And then Vegas say, come back here, stupid. And then you go back and give them more money. No, that's go, I'm done. You fool me once, that's it. But what happens is, and I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not calling anybody stupid. I'm guilty of this too. We desire it to work so bad because we don't trust God. So we just want it to work because we feel like this is our only opportunity to perhaps find something great. When the truth is, God's got so many rams in the bush. It's almost, it would blow your mind to know how many blessings God has for you if you just step back and say, you know what, I'm not gonna get in the way. Because when you get in the way, God gets out of the way.
Come on, say it again. I double dog dare you to say that.
You double dog dare me?
I double dog dare you to say that for the people in the nosebleed section who didn't have enough sense to spend the money on the tickets to sit in the front row.
When you get in the way, God gets out of the way.
Listen, that's so powerful.
Because he can't get in the middle of free will. That's the main reason. He has to be invited in. See, Satan even has to be invited in. The difference is Satan knows how to bogart his way.
He's pushy.
He's pushy. He's a bully.
He's a bully.
God's not a bully. If you don't want him there, he'll do like this. He'll tap on your window, and you go, "Who's that tapping?" He'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and go.
No problem.
No problem. The devil's like, hey, look at this big old truck of these naked girls in front of your house. And you open the door, and then he comes in. That's in his mind. You just invited him in. He's like a car salesman. He's like a car salesman. You know what I mean? He's like, you want this bad car that ain't good for you, that run out of gas every time you drive and hit the red light? If you don't say no, you just said yes. God's not that way. So back to the man, if a man is ghosting you, it's because he don't like you. He may not want to tell you that because he wants to string you along. He feel like he can take advantage of you. Or like your mom just said, it's just an assignment. And I'm gonna go with what she said more than anything else, because a lot of times guys are not doing it. This I will say, because a lot of women believe that men are viciously doing it. They're not. A lot of men.
It's their wiring.
Exactly.
It's their wiring.
Exactly.
It's now in their DNA because they've been practicing it for so long. They think they can practice it with whomever. But if you don't, if you want to get something done professionally, you don't go to somebody that's practicing doing it. You go to somebody that's licensed to do it, or somebody that knows what they're doing. So it's the same thing with relationships. Y'all forgive me for messing with my hair. I got these headphones on and it feels stupid over there on that side. You know what I'm saying? So I keep trying to fix it. Thanks, hush. Thank you for calling in, baby girl. That was a powerful question. I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. You guys could definitely call me on Facebook Live. I mean, call me on Facebook right now. I don't know another way. Off the top of my head right now to make it work. I don't know why it's not working besides it could be Satan. But we're gonna bypass Satan. And those of you who are connected to me on social media, I'm sorry to those of you who are outside of that or watching it by YouTube. I will figure it out. Right, I hung up. I did. I will figure it out, and we'll make sure that it's working for you. Okay, call back in, baby.
She has one more question.
But listen, call me on Facebook so that I can answer it on my phone.
Is Singer Rain your daughter?
She is my daughter. She's my youngest daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call me on Facebook, baby girl. She's why she hung up.
She hung up. She didn't like my answer. That's why.
No, she's saying I hung up.
She said, "What?"
Yeah, call me on Messenger. Call me on Messenger.
Like me. You see how fine I am?
Right. Now Messenger acting like it don't want to ring. Okay, I'm about to say the devil has lost his whole mind.
His whole mind.
Whole entire mind. Okay, baby girl, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What's your next comment or question?
Okay. My last question is, what about the man that is the one and knows they're the one, and the father tells them to approach that woman, and they're acting scary to approach that woman?
Well, we're on the Scarecrow, so let's talk about scary. Well, we can kind of move Scarecrow and Lion on this, right? Because both of them have some apprehension. So go ahead.
I want to hear from him because
that's what I'm getting ready to let him answer it, baby. Go ahead, Carl.
You just want to hear from Broham.
She wants to hear from Broham. Who child is that?
That's your child. Trust me, that's your child. So this whole thing about not wanting to obey God don't even make you obey Him. God doesn't even make you obey Him.
That's so good.
So you can't really get upset if He chooses not to obey God. There's a lot of people who are right now in rebellion who God has told to help people financially. There are people right now who have many gifts and talents, and they have millions of dollars, and God has told them to give it to someone, but because of jealousy, envy, who knows, Satan.
I'm gonna hang you up, baby girl, while he gives you the answer.
They're choosing not to obey God. So rebellion is why most people don't get their blessing, because God is like this. It's like playing a video game. You get to one level, but you cannot get to the next level until you do this thing. And if you don't get it right, you just keep hitting that wall until you figure it out. And then you get to level 2, level 3, level 4. That's how God works. Everything that you see that Satan does, God did it first. That's why I love
again. That's a fact.
Yeah, everything. So that's why when a man, if he feels God is telling him to reach out and be with this particular woman, and he chooses not to be with that woman, and he chooses not to do it, God ain't gonna make him obey Him. So you can't either. If God can't make him do what's right, you sure not gonna be able to make him do what's right. It's not gonna happen. And the other thing too, you got to remember, Dr. Jackson. Another thing too, you got to remember too, though. Are we listening to God, or is it just you desiring something that God has not actually sent you too, because a lot of times people like to say God said something. I'm not saying you in particular, I'm just saying in general. A lot of times people will say God said something, and that person really did not hear from God, so they're just not making a move because they couldn't hear it. They don't know what you see. They can't see what you see. So if they can't see what you see, then you have to also be patient and wait, because sometimes God is waiting for you to see if you will trust him. See, some things is about timing. So in other words, the person that God told you this is going to be my husband could actually be your husband, but you have to be patient and wait on God to connect the dots. So sometimes it's not rebellion. Sometimes it's just you got to be patient and wait. I give you an example. I had a young lady who she was from Belgium. She came in to visit me a couple times. I felt the unction that she was someone I was supposed to marry, but I chose to ignore it. And she told me years later, after she got married, she has 3 kids now, she's happy. But she told me, she says, I heard God tell me that too. But she said, you were the man, and I did not want to enter into a marriage with you where I was telling you what God said. I wanted God to tell you because you were going to be my leader. Whew. That was powerful to me. So what that told me was that sometimes blessings are waiting for you, but if you choose not to go with that blessing, then that's your thing. And she told me the other day, I'm praying that God will send you a wife. She told me this the other day. She says, and I'm not mad that you didn't choose me, but I did hear God say that I could be your wife. See what I'm saying? So that's a good woman. That's a woman who says, I'm going to play my position as a woman, right? And I'm going to trust God that if this person doesn't hear from God, he still has me. And he did. She's married to a wonderful guy. She's married to a wonderful guy. So I think if people really get past the whole concept of it's got to go my way, and like I said earlier, if you end the way, God gets out of the way. If you just get out of the way, then what God does is he'll say, okay, if this person chooses not to obey me, I got 4 or 5 more people that are waiting to be a blessing to you. And in some instances, be better than the person that you thought you wanted.
That's so powerful, because at the end of the day, it boils back down to trust. And so even if, like you're saying, even if you think you heard that or you believe you heard that, if a person doesn't agree with that or they don't come into alignment with that, you have to understand that the Father hasn't run out of anything. You know?
God has so many people waiting to be a blessing to you. It's unreal. And some people will be obedient and some won't. And that to me is also a sign too. When a person chooses not to be obedient, then that's a sign that person may not be the person for you anyway. Because divine obedience, when somebody says divine obedience, I like that. Divine obedience is way more powerful than anything that you desire. So if you meet someone who is in divine obedience, you know how they're going to treat you?
Hello?
Do you know how they're going to treat you?
Listen. And that's what you want. That's what you want. You don't want no hard-headed Negro. You don't want no hard-headed chick. Because if they don't honor the Father, how they going to honor you?
How they going to honor you?
How are they going to honor you? Tell me how that's going to happen. Tell me how they're going to even respect or know who you are.
But I like somebody named Clarence said divine obedience. I got to give him credit for that, because that was powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, turn us down in the background, Patricia.
Oh, sorry.
Divine obedience. Somebody put that in the chat. Divine obedience.
Just listening to the conversation, it is so rich. And one of the things that I thought about is the fact that sometimes we come to God with these ultimatums, and what the ultimatums do is you kind of limit what God can do, because God always want to exceed our expectations. And so if you can see with your natural eye and you lock down on that, imagine what God sees past your natural eye.
Oh my gosh. Come on. That's so real. That's so real. The reality is that he's seeing the bigger picture.
Even touching on just sometimes we gotta take. I like what Carl said earlier. He said if we're in the way, God gets out the way.
I love that.
So true.
Oh my God.
We want to control God. God will not be controlled.
He will not.
freedom. He gave us freedom of choice for a reason, because he's saying, I don't want you to do this grudgingly. I want you to do this happily.
Do it willingly.
I want you to me blessing you happily.
Come on. Come on.
And here's why. Because God.
So yeah, so that control thing, we gotta address that. We gotta leave that at the door when we're asking God to step in, so He can exceed our expectations every single time.
I appreciate that. That is good. He will not be controlled. Somebody put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, that was good.
Divine obedience and God will not be controlled. We think that we can, like he's something in a genie, like he's a genie in a bottle. Right. And we can just give him our wishes. And that's just how that works. No.
I was just going to say he can't be controlled because he represents freedom.
Listen.
He represents freedom. So how can something that represents freedom be controlled? That makes no sense, people. So that's why people get caught up, because they keep saying they want freedom. And then God says, okay, I am a God of freedom.
Go ahead and make a choice.
Make a choice. And you can't make me do it the way you see it.
Come on.
I'll just give you the right way that is the best way for you, based upon your request.
And based on what's working in you.
And based on where you are in your level of understanding and thinking and wisdom and knowledge. That's why Solomon asked for wisdom and knowledge. Because wisdom and knowledge will propel you further than most people. That in itself is divine obedience when you listen to wisdom and knowledge.
It is. And let me say that just because you brought this up, that he asked for that, because we're talking about how to come out of this space, right? The Father talks to us in dreams. And when you really go back and look at that passage, he never asked for that himself.
No.
He was in a dream state.
Right.
And because we don't understand how to accept the dream or to understand or decode the dream, right? See, there's something in Solomon that allowed him to be able to understand what was going on, because his father worshiped Yah, right? So this was an inherent thing. To many people, this is not inherent. So you have to desire to know, because he's speaking to you while you're asleep, because he can't talk to you while you're woke.
Right.
Hello? He's trying to have conversations when you're woke, but you're disputing and all. See, in your sleep, you haven't gotten to the place. You haven't yet gotten to the place where you can, you know how to, hi baby, where you know how to control the communication, or, cooperate with the communication, right? I love you. I'll see you in a minute. Go out. Close my door. Where you haven't gotten to the place. See, like in my dreams, I now am in a position, maturity puts you here. I'm not boasting anything. You can get here, but it's a process, and it's about maturity. Now in my dreams, don't nothing happen without my permission. Now in my dreams, if I'm dealing with an enemy, I could just reach down on my sides and pull up guns that weren't even there and just start firing. Are you listening to what I'm saying? Now in my dreams, I'm not running slow. I'm running quickly. You understand? Yeah. Now in my dreams, if I dug down, I'm covered. See, it's a different level of things. And so his communication with Solomon is a result of his father's communication. Some of you guys are dealing with your father's communication. You're dealing with something that was inherent, something that was passed down to you. Maybe the person before you didn't have the relationship that you think they had. Maybe the person before you was not an example of the goodness of the Father.
Right.
They were not that example. And so you thought they were something that they were not. And so you're basing your identity and how you're going to address things and how you're going to do things based on that. And that wasn't even a successful run. Right? So now he's not asking for anything, but the Father will speak through a vessel to them.
Right.
It's something we were talking about. How you got to learn how to allow the Father to speak to you through you. Now, we know how to do that when we're speaking to other people. We understand the process of us speaking, him speaking through our mouth to other people. But I'm telling you that he will literally speak through your mouth to you. I'm going to give you an example. I was getting with this guy years ago, right? And as I was standing in a doorway, I was communicating with him and something came out of me. I said, I'm not about to be your flavor of the month. That I hadn't learned yet that he speaks through me to me. I'm saying this to him as if it's a message for him, but it was really a message for me. That this is the nature of the person you're connecting to.
Right.
This is you're speaking to nature right now. You're speaking to the personality. You're speaking to the persona. You're speaking to the spirit of the person that you're getting ready to deal with. And this is an announcement on a loud broadcast for you to understand what you're getting ready to walk into. But because I had not learned that he can speak through me to me, then I thought it was a message for them and not for me.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And so the Father knows how to get to us. And you've got to allow these different places that he's speaking from, because you talked about nature, and he talks about that in Romans. He said, men will be without excuse.
Right.
Men, not speaking of the male specifically, but because we're talking to you, we're going to gear it to you. You will not have any excuse, because everything in nature expresses who he is. It expresses the nature of him. It expresses the goodness of him. It expresses his creativity. It expresses the wonder. Excuse me, if you go into nature or walk through or just ride your bike or get on skates or walk or whatever and just begin to smell the roses, smell the flowers, this is proverbially, right? Get in nature and just get with him. There are things he's going to show you.
Right. I said that earlier. Right.
Yeah, that's like dreaming.
Right. It is the same as dreaming.
It's the same thing as the dream. He's going to communicate with you. And then you'll begin to speak a thing because he's spoken it to you. But that's the same way he deals with us when we're awake. But most men that are under this impression, like the Scarecrow, can't hear while they're awake. So he's speaking to you in the dream. That was good stuff.
That's great.
That was good stuff. Let's go to the lion for a minute, because the lion doesn't have courage. And I want to deal with that because my daughter brought up the whole scary man thing. And I do believe that there is a thing in this age of men, because the man is being watered down and they don't even know it.
Right.
The man is being watered down. They're not aware of it. So they have become more effeminate than they would like to believe.
Right.
Men are for brawn and for strength, and not just physical. Because a lot of times when you think of a man, or when men are thinking of things, they're thinking more from a physical perspective than an inner perspective. Let's deal with your inner man and not just your outer man, because you can be strong here. It's like having a weapon, right? But there are some weapons that are rising in the earth right now that are not going to be shot. You're not going to be able to shoot them or stab them. The way you're going to have to be able to deal with this is from a spiritual vantage point. And if you are weak spiritually, you're likely going to be destroyed. Let's talk about the lion for a minute, because he doesn't have any courage.
Right.
He has no courage. What does that look like? I mean, what are we looking at right now, Carl, with a man that has no courage? Because one of the things that comes to my mind is, and I say this just jokingly, but it's a real thing. Whatever happened to the Dwayne Waynes that'll bust in on a wedding and say, don't do that? No, like, seriously, that's a real thing. Like, there was a season in time when a man loved a woman so much, he was not going to just let her do something.
Right.
He wasn't just going, he was like, no, it's like what you said. When he loves her, he don't want nobody else to touch her.
Nobody.
When he wants her, he wants nobody else to have her. You understand? And he's willing to put himself on the line. Listen. Right? What does it say? What does it say?
Picture of a line that says men back in the day versus men today. This is men today.
Oh, I'm done.
Versus men back in the day.
I cannot. Okay. That's real though. What is it with this new culture? We think if we do all the things that make people look like they tough or look like, because we got all these things. If the world is presented. Close Granny's door, please. In a minute. I'm on a live, okay? You can. Where's your mother? I'm going to mute my phone so you can speak to this thing that I'm communicating right now, brother, and try to get some order back in my environment. Go ahead, Carl. Speak to that.
Oh, you want me to speak?
Oh, God, yes. I got to get some order over here.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, when you were talking, I was thinking about men and courage versus men of yesterday. I think part of the problem is we have lost respect for the older gentlemen, our grandfathers, our uncles. And let me say this before I go into that. It's not necessarily a thing where people purposely did this. I think society changed. You know, the spotlight was put on, especially black males. The spotlight was put on all the negative black males, right? So it makes it look like all black men are not men of courage. And then when you take away the economy and you make it where they don't have an economy, a real economy, then that also takes away that courage that most men would have normally felt, that they no longer can feel, because if you take away someone's ability to feed their family correctly, then they feel lost in this jungle called life. You know what I mean? So I think, but going back to what I'm saying, I think that part of the problem is we don't understand how important it is to listen to the old men, the men of old who gave us the wisdom and knowledge, and men my age and even younger who are trying to figure it out on our own versus getting that wisdom. Every major family, every major family that has money, it was handed down to them. So that means each generation was not just handed a checkbook, it was also handed information. The more information you have with that money, the better decisions you're going to make. See what I'm saying? So I think that the courage comes from having that background. Having said that, though, that is not an excuse. That is not an excuse to not change it today. I kind of made a mention of this the other day. You and I were talking. I was saying how my grandfather had 3 businesses. My grandmother had $1 million under the bed. You know what I mean? Like not my grandmother, but my aunt. She kept like $1 million under the bed, just cash, just left and right. And old people, black people from that time were rich. They were rich. They were rich and filthy rich. And they had their own banking system. They had their own dry cleaning services, grocery stores.
Yes.
I mean, movie theaters. They literally had their own economy, to the point that I think America decided, wait a minute, these black people are, if we're not careful, they're gonna take over America, because they're thriving.
Listen.
So for me, the civil rights movement was a joke.
It was a
For
joke.
me.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
Because what it really did was it took away the power from the black male.
It did.
And it put it back into the hands of the slave master.
Yes, it did.
And once that happened, they never gave that power back. They put out your little P. Diddy faces here and there, or your Will Smith to make us think, you know, Barack Obama.
Boule. Boule.
Here's your black face.
Boule.
Boule, exactly. But they're not doing anything to give us back the economy. So I think the courage part really does start with the economics.
It does.
And I think if we start together, black males come together now and start pouring into each other, there's enough of us right now that we can create that economy like that.
You know what? That's what they're after.
We have it now.
But that's what they're after with this whole abortion thing, because what our people don't really realize is the fact that this is the same situation that it was with Pharaoh, right?
Right.
It's too many of them, okay?
Right.
They're not producing on the level that we're producing. So unless they kill our babies, unless they give you all of this foolishness to watch on TV, and you go out and give away your jewels and your goods and then put yourself in positions that you don't want to be in and then kill the baby, unless all of these dynamics are thrown into the pot, then they cannot control our population.
Right.
They can't control it because it's too many of us.
Right.
Too many of us. So
it's actually more than what they're telling us.
It is. It's way more.
The census is actually a lie. They tell us that the numbers of Black America is like this low. But I remember pitching a film idea to Universal Studios a while back. And this was like probably 10 years ago. And they told me, they looked me in my face. The executive was sitting across the desk from me at not Warner Brothers, at Universal. And I was pitching them this idea. And they said, I asked him, I said, who actually watches Universal Picture movies? And the executive said, blacks and Hispanics make 80% of their audience. 80%. I said, so what's the other 20%? They said white. I said, so if that's the case, why do y'all do so many white films and not do black films? And they looked at me and said, because that's not our business. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's deep. So it is propaganda. They're purposely doing this because they want to have power because they're losing the power.
Yeah, if you ever woke up and realized that there were more of you.
It was that way in slavery. They said that if slaves knew that it was only, 3,000 per...
It's the same way now, though. It's just like 300, maybe, it's a handful compared to the billions of people that are in the world. We're looking at, yes, you can have a breadstick, looking at a handful of people that's controlling all this stuff. So this is why they hide behind what they hide behind. They hide behind
the population. Politics. Black is bigger than what they're telling us.
It is. They hide behind politics. They hide behind media. They hide behind pharmaceuticals. They hide behind all of these other religious they hide behind church. They hide behind all of these religious entities or religious structures that they built, because religion doesn't have anything to do with the Bible. I keep telling y'all that. Religion is simply what someone believes and want to give, forcefully to someone else, not just.
And it's boule.
And they hide behind boule, which is your. Oh, and this is going to put people in a bad spot, but I don't care, because if I can't help you if I can't tell you something, right? This is where all of your sororities and stuff, we've just so bought into, and then in the same breath we talking about how we being mistreated and how we're being mishandled, but how you bought into all this stuff, you positioned yourself for this.
The trick they did to Black people was they knew that we were about community. So what they did was they created communities that they controlled.
Period.
Whether it's sorority, whether it's Black entertainment television, whether it's the church, whether it's Essence Festival.
Absolutely.
They came up with all these things that they own now. Yep. They own it.
Yep.
And they just kept us busy doing that. Meanwhile, they're changing laws. They're taking out banks out of, they're redlining areas where you can't even get a loan if you live in that area.
Listen.
We used to have Black banks in those areas. There was no reason to redline us because we had our own money. We was like, forget you.
Right.
We had our own money.
Absolutely.
But now they can redline us.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you live in a certain area, that's considered negative territory. When in fact, it was thriving more than their areas.
Listen.
Brooklyn and the Bronx was popping. Manhattan.
That's why they came and took it over. That's where this urban sprawl and all of that stuff come from, because you went in an area, it became
White
something.
Folks were going into Brooklyn and Harlem.
That's it.
Manhattan wasn't popping.
It was not.
It wasn't popping. So the banks, the money, they saw where the money was going. So they sent in, and some people gonna get mad at me.
This is what it is.
But they sent in Malcolm X and Martin Luther King for
both
boule.
It is what it is, bro.
It is what it is. And then they put these people on a pedestal, and they had Malcolm X look like a preacher, sound like a preacher, act like a preacher, but telling you to hate the white man.
Mm-hmm.
So he's putting in your head all these things that you should be focused on when you actually didn't need Malcolm X to say nothing to you. You didn't need him. You didn't need Martin Luther King either.
Mm-mm.
That's why I hate the civil rights movement, because it was actually to destroy the Black economy.
And destroy the Black mind, the Black mentality, the Black courage. Okay, now we didn't really.
Dr. Umar Johnson, boule. I'm sorry.
It is what it is. Jesse Jackson. I mean, we could go.
He's just our modern day version of Malcolm X.
We can go down the line.
I don't know about the school, if he's going to build it or not. I'm not talking about that. No. I'm talking about what he's saying
and what he stands for.
What he's saying. Dr. Umar Johnson is boule.
We could go down
or secret society. I'll say it that way. That's better.
Secret society, whichever. But we want to speak specifically to boule because of the people that are listening and watching. We want you to know that.
Scare people. Think I shouldn't talk like this because I own networks and I do.
We're not scared. We're not scared.
Here's why I'm not afraid of it. The only reason why I'm not afraid of it is because I know my mission.
Hello.
My mission is not to destroy what they're doing. No, 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 no. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm trying to build what God wants to build, create what He wants to create. So as long as He's backing me, it doesn't matter.
What can man do? What can man
People
do?
have to be awakened to the truth. And that's the bottom line. So when you talk about courage, for me, it goes deeper than just a man won't ask a woman to be his woman. It's a deeper philosophy. Because for me, courage comes from all of that. If a white man, no disrespect, because I have white people who work for me, have white people that's in my office, so I'm not disrespecting, I'm not racist or anything like that. But I tell them this all the time. I'm telling you what I tell them. And I tell them this all of the time. You can ask any of them that work for me. And I'll tell them, there's a confidence you have because your system is in place. There's a confidence that comes with that.
Listen.
So it doesn't matter if you think, I don't see myself as racist because I'm black or I'm white and I think we're all the same. Let me tell you something. When you go to that bank of whoever, is a better chance of you getting that loan than a person of color. It's just a fact. The system is in place.
It is what it is.
That brings character and that brings courage. But when you take that away from black males, and then in the 70s, they took out the black man, told black women, hey, take this little $3 a month. As long as you don't have a black man in the house,
come on,
we'll give you this money. And then that created the single parent home. There was no single parent home before.
No.
It was, a matter of fact, other men would beat that other man's butt
and tell him take his butt home. Go your butt home, man. What are you doing?
Home. All that came from destroying the economic system. So now you got all these people who are fake with this Black Lives Matter movement, who I can only go into it, but I'll just say
it's so ridiculous, man.
But I'll just say the courage part was assassinated by design. I'm only giving you this history so that you understand how to build it again.
You're doing well.
You have to understand how it got here.
Yeah.
So that you know where you're going.
Absolutely.
So I would tell all black people, but especially black males, if you are going to rebuild this, you've got to do it with other black males.
Period.
The information is there and the money is there. You think Asians don't know that? Why do you think they keep putting hair and chicken places everywhere black people are at and making millions of dollars monthly? They make fried chicken better than your grandmother.
Absolutely.
And they learned it from your grandmother.
They took the recipe. They got the recipe. Come on.
So if we understand that, then we can come together. And I blame the generation of people before us, the men that left their wives.
Say it again.
For other families, built other families with other people of other races, even sometimes, and left their kids abandoned, their sons abandoned. You're supposed to give your sons the next generation of your wealth of wisdom and knowledge and understanding and whatever you can give them so they can keep building. But instead, you went and was tricked into thinking that you can't live with this woman. So I can't raise these kids with this woman. And so you end up leaving. That generation left those kids. And now those kids are 30, 25, trying to figure it out. And what did corporate America do? Hey, look at this rainbow flag over here.
Listen.
You may not be straight. You might be gay.
You got problems. You got problems, really. You got problems. And that's what the problem is. You haven't really tapped into your real identity. So we're going to give you something.
We're going to give you something that you can identify with since your daddy left you, since you were molested, since you were this. These are the things that took away the courage. And I defend black men because of the fact that it's so easy to just say they don't have courage and they're just weak. It's not that. This has been designed for years, but we can fix it. We can fix it. That's the great news. We can fix it. And how we fix it is to turn off the music, turn off the radio, turn off all the movies, all the conditioning. They got a new slave movie that just came out today with what's her name? her name is the girl from How to Murder and Get Away with It. The black lady.
I can't think of her name.
Viola Davis.
Viola, yeah.
Viola Davis has a new movie coming out called The Woman's King. So they're putting in the people's minds that a woman is supposed to be the man.
Absolutely.
She's the warrior, the black woman. A black woman wants to have a king, though.
Period.
But they called it the woman king. You see the evilness in that? The woman king.
And you know what? People are going to watch. People will watch this and say, "Oh, this is strong. Oh, look at this." You know, just giving all kind of praise and glory to this. She's a strong black woman, and all of these things that are things that have been fed to our people throughout all of these different times, all of these different ages. And so now, remember what I started out with: practice makes permanence. That's why the Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word. You know, the word.
Someone said I'm hitting a soft spot now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not trying to hit a soft spot.
No, that's good. That means a good thing. She laughed. It's a good thing.
Okay.
We want you to hit the spot.
I'm not, because I'm saying this, and I don't feel like I'm gonna lose my life. I feel like the demons are so stupid that they don't understand that no matter what, the ending has been rigged. God wins.
Come on.
He wins. So whatever I say, as long as it's in truth and said in love to help people, there's nothing they can do. Yeah, they can try, but
he said no. He said no weapon formed against his sons will prosper. So that's why that's so important. So I love that you dealt with that, because that was not the intention. Was to just say that the man was weak, but to deal with the fact of where he lost the courage. Because the truth is, they are not as courageous.
Well, we talked about this. That's why I brought it up.
We did. They are not as courageous as they were. And the other thing is, I want to speak this. Thank you for calling in. Give me one moment. I'm going to let you in, caller. The reality is, we've got to deal with this fact that there's information that needs to be retrieved. The fact is, you cannot do things the way your former fathers did them, because the Bible says this, and me and Patricia talked about this, and this was the word that kept ringing in my heart and in my mind all week. The children of this age are wiser than the children of light. Now, let me help you with that.
Absolutely.
Of this age, that means in every age, there is a
system.
More
advanced.
There's an advancement. There is a system, right? And so those that are taking advantage of that system, those that identify what the system is. So like, let's go here. Agricultural, right? Then it went from agricultural to industrial, went from industrial, right, to information. It's a process.
Right.
You can't go and just say, I'm just going to go plant a field, because the people that were born that had land back in that day, they were rich. They were born rich, and they stayed rich because land was what made them rich.
Right.
That's not how that works now. So you can't just say, I'm going to go get me a farm and plant some seed, because now Monsanto, now I'm not saying that you have to plant their seed, but I'm saying if you're going to take this thing to the market, they're going to do everything they can to sabotage your farm, because they want to take over the seed.
And that's why I said we got to get Christian billionaires.
Stop saying Christian. I know it's a habit.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I got you. We've got to awaken to who we are and what the Father is calling us to. And we've got to be able to be connected to those that have the funding, or know where the money is, to be able to access that to begin to build. Y'all so busy going to church, y'all don't understand that infrastructure has to be built. Caller, you're on the line. Thank you for calling the Unmuted Man. What's your question or your comment?
Thank you. I'm from Atlanta, and I was holding on to this question because it wasn't really relevant early in the conversation, but now that we touching on family, I was like, I gotta ask.
Okay, come on.
So my question is, so why do parents diminish their young adults? I'm talking about 25, 23, 25, 27, their experiences and their knowledge, and say things like, your 20-something years of age has nothing to do with my 50+ years of life, as if we don't know what we're talking about, or as if we haven't experienced things that made us more wise.
Come on. That's an excellent question, But this goes to the thing that I'm speaking of now, because that advancement is not just in the way of, agriculture or technology or all of that. It's information, because if you think about this, these children come out almost as if they know how to use the technology that grown folks still trying to figure out. You know why? Because they were born in another age. But these children come out and you put a phone in their hand and they know what to do with it. No instructions, no nothing, which says that there is some information based on that age they're in that they have. Go ahead. I'm going to let you speak to that, Carl. There's some information that they have. And I think that if we merge the two, then we'll be more powerful. If we merge that.
Let me make sure I understood her question. So you're saying you feel like, are you asking,
why do parents diminish their children?
Parents don't acknowledge the wisdom of their children? Is that kind of what you're asking?
That's kind of what she's saying. It's like, why do they diminish them? Because they feel like because of their age, they know more and they know nothing.
Honestly, it comes from ignorance. There's a lot of 70, 50, 60, 70-year-old people that are ignorant.
Come on now.
I'm going to say this, and I hope this doesn't get out and hurt me later, but I still struggle with my own father to this day, who I love dearly, with wisdom and knowledge of today versus what he was used to. And I had to come to patience with him because I realized it's a pride. There you go. It's a pride thing. It's a thing where he felt like there's two things going on. He feels like he didn't get the opportunities that I got, and that if he had them, he would have done great. But the second part of it is he feels almost like he's worth less because he doesn't understand the new system.
That's so powerful.
So he's in between two areas. So when God revealed those things to me, then I was able to understand there's wisdom that my father has that if I apply it today, it will blow you out the water, the stuff he knows.
Yes.
But it has to go both ways.
It's a merger.
It's a merging, as you said earlier. So if both parties come together, but the person have to not be ignorant to understand it. And there's the one thing that young people got over old people, that is they are open to knowledge.
They are.
They explore their phones like there's no tomorrow. They want to know as much information as they can take in. Old people go, I already did that. Oh, I already seen that. Oh, that music ain't about nothing. Let me tell you something. Hip hop, R&B, come up with any genre you want to. At some point, somebody old said it wasn't gonna work.
Absolutely.
Even R&B. Steve, can you imagine the stuff Stevie Wonder was doing that people heard in that time and was like, what is that? When they were used to hearing James Brown, they were used to hearing the Four Tops, and they hear Stevie Wonder, and they going, what is that nonsense, that rickety music he's doing, right?
Come on now.
And now today, Stevie Wonder is a mastermind genius. He's proven that he was on to something.
That's right.
And I think that's the key that a lot of older people miss. They think because they've seen it all. No, you haven't seen it all.
It's not possible.
Have you traveled to every country in the world? Have you been to every continent? Until you've experienced every type of foods, luxuries, talents, gifts. There are people right now that are millionaires who are singers that you never heard of.
Say so.
You never heard of them. They got houses bigger than Celine Dion.
And they're not in the system.
So you don't know everything. In the system.
You don't.
So the merging of the generations is so pivotal. It's so valuable for Black.
It's the pivot point that a lot of people aren't ready for. But it's funny that
feel like they fail. Exactly.
It's so funny because that you say that, because I remember having a conversation with my stepdad, right? This was a couple of years ago. And we went to dinner and he said, I want you guys, he's talking to me and my sister, he said, I want you to tell us or tell me, where you feel like I missed it, if I ever did anything that, where I could have done better, whatever. Question blew my mind, first of all. Okay.
Yeah, that's him growing.
It blew my mind. And so, while my sister, because that's his daughter, she's like, oh, I don't have no complaints. I don't, and I'm like, I'll go at it.
Damn, right.
Okay. I was no holds barred. This is what it is. And what I want to say to this thing is, this was one of the statements that I made. I said, where you missed it with me is the fact that I was born between black and white and color era. And I mean, tears was just flowing at the table because this is real to me. You have to go ask mommy. You got to understand. You want me to do things from your era, from black and white. But baby, I was born in between.
Right.
2-8. I was born in between black and white and color, which means my creativity, who I am as a person, is completely different than what you were born into.
Right.
So there's something about me that identifies with the old, but understands who I am.
Right.
Yeah, and there's something unique about me based on where I was born in.
1000% agree.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's the other thing that's missing with the older crowd is that they think, you know, like you said, they feel like they've seen everything, they know everything. It's not an issue of knowing everything. It's an issue of being able to respect what you don't know. To honor what you don't know and allow somebody that does know to speak it to you. It's ignorant to say, oh, I don't care about that. You know, I wasn't, you know, I'm not with all this techno, whatever. But guess what? That's the age we live in.
That's the age.
And if you don't apply yourself to that, you're going to get lost. You're not going to be relevant. It's like before YouTube was monetized, I was on YouTube. I was on Justin TV. I was on all of those platforms. There was no monetization in the age when I jumped on social media and was a voice and was doing all this stuff. Now there's monetization. Guess what? I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not about to let all these children come in here and make all this money. And I was on the platform before it was even a thing. Guess what I got to do? I got to pivot. Right. I got to figure out what are they doing to do this? How does this work? Not, oh, well, you know what? I've been there, done that already. I ain't really pressed. It's money on the table. What you're telling me is you're going to leave the money on the table when it's meant to help you build the legacy. You're going to leave the money on the table because you're too proud to stop doing it the old way and come into the new way.
It's pride. It's the same thing that happens when you talk about David and Saul, I think was his name, David and Saul in the Bible, but it also comes down to, if you ever been to like a church and the pastor, the bishop is intimidated by you speaking at to his congregation. So he has to, I knew this one pastor, when I was going to church, he would hold a mic while whoever was speaking was speaking. I'm like, what kind of clown would hold a mic while somebody else is supposed to be speaking to the people?
Come on,
like, you cartoon
character.
What is wrong with you? You're so enamored with being in control and powerful and insecure. Really, that's the word. Insecure. That you can't even let someone else get their shine because the congregation is starving for some real word that you ain't giving them. So all of a sudden when they hear it, they're just elated and excited, and you get mad about it. That was one of the reasons why I stopped going to church, because I kept seeing demonic activity versus God's activity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fact.
So that merging of the changing of the guard, the merging of generations is important in the kingdom.
It is.
And that's why the devil fights so hard to destroy that. Because what the scripture says, the old man should dream dreams, the young man
see visions.
They're supposed to work together.
Come on. It's a merger. It's a merger. And if it's not a merger, it's a mess. You know?
Exactly.
If it's not a merger, it's a mess. And that's why we are where we are as a people, particularly. Because people are not willing to merge. Where is the investment in that generation that can see things the way you don't see them?
Right.
You know, there's no investment because you feel like this is not a good investment. You want people to still go to college and get a degree, but guess what? We're not in that age anymore. You know, people saw Steve Jobs and all these people and were like, oh, I want to go learn how to program and how to do all this. But the thing that you missed was you trying to do that in 1992, but he started programming in 1968.
1968.
Are you listening to me? So that age, that era has shifted. You missed the window. So now it's moved to the next thing. And so what the Father, I believe, really wants to do, Carl, is put us in the position where we are in the prayer position to get this supernatural download. This is what we do in intercession. This is how we move. There are people on here right now that can tell you, I got a whole list of stuff that we were praying into. That was stuff that we need to be positioned for in order to get ahead of this thing. It's the Father's desire.
What she just said,
What's
kids
that?
got more
More
sense than the
sense than the
parents.
parents.
Let me tell you something.
Listen.
My daughter is 8 years old, and I'm gonna tell you, that is so profound. That statement. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go ahead.
But that statement was so profound because daily, my daughter spits out gems daily. I mean, like daily stuff that I've even applied in my own business in my life. And I think God does that to show us that you ain't all that. You are not all that. Just stay humble. Stay humble. You might have a system that's working, but what happens when systems change? How many people had to pivot during COVID? When COVID happened, people had their thing going, right? They were chilling. And then COVID hit, you weren't ready. So if you didn't know how to pivot, you were screwed.
Yes.
So now you have old people trying to figure out how to use the computer and trying to figure out how to make money to pay that mortgage because their system crumbled just like that overnight. That's why it's important to listen to it. You can learn from an infant.
You can. You can. Can I tell you one of the crucial things you can learn from an infant? This is so powerful. The Holy Spirit just said it to me. I think this is going to bless so many of y'all. You can learn how to communicate with the Father from an infant.
Absolutely.
Listen to this.
I agree with that.
It's things that an infant can't do by themselves.
Right.
So what do? They cry out.
Right.
Because they're not capable of doing it by themselves.
That's good.
So they cry out. And it's a lot of people
help.
who be like, oh, I don't believe in that. And I don't want to, I'm a man. I don't want to cry. Guess what? Had they not cried out in Egypt, they would have still been in captivity. Because what he was responding to was their cry. In other words, they got to the place where they recognized, and the cry doesn't just mean, I need something. As an adult, the cry means I miss something. Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, absolutely.
As an adult, the cry doesn't mean I just need something because, see, that's childish. I'm talking about taking on the identity of childlikeness, but from a mature perspective.
Right.
Okay? Childish I'm talking about being childlike.
Right.
You're crying out because you miss something, not because you need something.
Ooh.
The baby cries out because they need something that they can't get for themselves. Right? But an adult, a mature person, a mature man should cry out to the Father because he knows he missed something.
That's good.
I missed it. Tell me where I missed it. Show me how I can retrieve this. Show me how I can fix this. And then you got to be open, because now we're going to deal with the lion, right? You got to have the courage to step out.
Right.
In the thing that's being spoken to you. You spoke to this earlier. You can't just sit around and wait on somebody else to do it for you. It took me to the story in the Word where the pool of Bethesda was. Most people that are Bible readers, you know what that is. And the man was lame. He had been there for a long time. And when the master shows up, he says, do you want to be healed? He said, well, every year the pool is stirred, so it's angelic activity. Something supernatural was happening, right? And somebody else got to it before he did, so he was not receiving. He said, I ain't ask you all that.
Right.
My question is, see, y'all go to the Father and he's saying stuff to you, whether he's speaking through other people that love you or whether he's speaking through nature or whatever it is, and you're coming up with the excuses that are preventing you from doing what he's saying. He said, I didn't ask you all that. Do you want to be made whole?
Right.
And that's the question that you have to ask yourself as a man. We know that you've been molested. We know that, you've been abandoned. We know that you got abandonment issues and rejection issues, and you got issues from all the people, all the personalities of the people that you slept with that you didn't know was a part of, because,
part.
I'm just telling you, you didn't know that all of that stuff was going to culminate at some point and it was going to turn into the person that you are today.
That part.
Okay. He knew all of that. But when you cry out, you're crying out because you missed something. Not just because you want something. Right?
That's good.
That breaks the barrier of pride. And I believe the Father said this. He said, well, this is in his word. He said, what he cannot resist is a broken and a contrite heart.
Right.
That's irresistible to him. It's like, all the things that you think is irresistible for a woman that you do to yourself, whatever that is, all the things that you do to try to, get the attention of a woman. He says, this is how you get my attention. Break yourself. Break your pride. Be nothing. Understand that without me, you can't do anything. Right?
Right.
Nothing. That is irresistible to me. That's what the Father's mindset is. You're irresistible to me. He will show up in a space where everything is just going south for the winter and it's summertime just because you're broken.
Right.
And you get in that space in your heart where you say, you know what? I missed it. And I don't want to keep going down this road. I need help. And I'm open to whatever you have to say to me. Whatever you have to say to me, I'm listening.
That's good.
I'm listening to it. What do you want to say? And how can I fix this?
Right.
How can I fix this? Right?
That's good.
Listen. I want to talk to this before we get off of here because we have had a great time tonight.
We have.
Wants to call in, like I said, call me on social media. I'll let you in. This age that I believe that all of these things culminating, the economic identity that man has now, where they are challenged economically, where they are challenged emotionally, where they are challenged spiritually. All of these things have culminated into this man that's muted, this man that doesn't use his words. And I should say he doesn't use his words when they're needed. They don't use their words properly because, like I said at the beginning, when you're watching a game or something that you like, you're talking to the TV.
Right.
You're communicating. I've even seen men jump up during a game. Now, they would naturally say, oh, I don't get excited. But the game is on, and now I'm jumping up, and I'm screaming, and I'm shouting, and I'm doing all of these things that I say in my heart as it pertains to prayer or anything else. I don't do any of those things. Right?
Right.
Very selective. At the end of the day, I believe all of these different things have caused the man to be muted.
I can see that.
These are the things that made him believe that his ideas weren't worth anything. So he stayed in that position, like the Scarecrow. He believed that he didn't have the heart, to do the things that was being given to him. He was waiting on somebody else to come and rescue him, or waiting for somebody else, right?
Right.
Nor did he have the courage.
Right.
Because he's believing all of the lies that he's receiving from all sorts of media. Could be people, could be people. It could be, the media itself, like the music, all of these different things. I want to speak to the fact that, everything that we've stated here tonight is to give you a basis and a foundation to step out of where you've been and to step into where you need to be. Because the man, I put this up before we came live. If you show me a muted man, I'll show you a defeated man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You show me a man that doesn't.
And that's the agenda.
That's the agenda.
Yeah, to keep you quiet.
Speak to that for a minute. Yeah, to shut you up.
Yeah, they want to shut all men up, not just black. They want to shut all men up, black or white, because the man represents the kingdom of God. And in the kingdom of God, there's order. And when you have the man and that woman come together, then you are in complete oneness really with God. When you with the right woman. I'm gonna say the right one, not the wrong one. And so what you're trying to do is cut off the godness of you and replace it with technology and science, which is Satan. And if they can do that, then they have accomplished what they've been trying to do for centuries, and that is to delete God. That's what the Tower of Babel was about. They was trying to basically delete God. They wanted to get him out of the equation.
That's right.
And they could just function within themselves. And these people have been doing this for centuries, for
ages,
centuries.
For ages.
And so if we can figure out the power that if we can figure out the power that we have, and really tap into it, and it's not complicated. It's just honestly,
it's relationship.
Two things: relationship with the Father and using your mind correctly.
That's right.
Your thoughts and your heart, using it correctly, because that's the key. If you can use your thoughts and your heart correctly, and it's in divine. Someone said of divine obedience earlier. then one person can do the work of 1,000 men.
Come on. That's okay. You mentioned Gideon earlier, though. I mean,
300.
you got to think about this because, and this is why I tell people it's so important to read the Bible because it's not a religious book. But if you don't read the Bible, you don't have a foundation. Right. You don't have an idea. You don't have the concepts that he's trying to portray or put forth to you so that you'll know how to practically live.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You've got to understand that because those concepts are real. They're practical.
Right.
They are real. And if you don't have them, then you don't have what you need to be open. You don't know what you're supposed to be opening up to. And now you're open up to all this other media. You're open up to all this other script, but not the scriptures. Come on now. Right. How many men on here could watch TV for hours but won't read a Bible verse for 3 minutes?
That part.
Come on now. How many people watch TV longer than they read the scripture? So you're looking at script. You're listening to script, but not the scripture. You got to understand that there's a war going on here, and the war is against your seed. There's a war against mankind, period. But the man was the first one that the Father put in charge. And we as women need something to look up to. We need something. You got to give us something. Okay?
Well, women, they say men always complain and say that women are not submissive. That's because they don't know what they're being submissive to.
There's no vision.
There's no vision. Without the vision, women or people will perish. And you think a woman is dumb enough to let you help her mess up her life? No, most women are smart enough to know. Most women, for the most part, most women are innately wired to choose the best man to take them to the promised land. So if you're not the best man for her to do that, then she innately either says, okay, I made a mistake, I'll do it myself and tag him along, or she gets out of the relationship because she can't have you bring her down, especially if she has kids. She can't have you bring her down. She's got to keep moving because those kids are dependent on her.
They're looking at her.
And they're looking at her for advice, guidance, direction. So women, it's not that women won't be submissive. It's that women ain't going to be submissive to foolishness.
They're not.
Even if they're foolish, that's the thing.
If they're foolish.
Most men miss that part. Even if she's foolish, she's still smart enough to know not to follow your foolishness.
Absolutely. That's where that phrase "I could do bad all by myself" comes from, because she knows she could mess some
Millie
stuff
Jackson.
up. Listen, she knows she could mess some stuff up just on GP. I could mess up some stuff. Now, why I'm gonna get with a Negro that's gonna help me mess up?
I don't got time for ignorance.
Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? So
women don't want to waste time with foolishness, and that's another thing that I think young men do mess up at. They're so gung-ho over trying to get some sex.
Yeah.
That they don't understand that with that is a price. And there's nothing that's free.
Nothing is free.
Nothing is free.
Listen.
So spiritually, you're paying a price for that. And so it's important that you choose a wife, not just a woman.
That's right.
A wife. Now, if you want a woman, don't take a wife and treat her like she's just any old woman. Be man enough to say, you know what? I ain't ready. Can't do that. Yeah. And go find you a Jezebel.
Right. Go do what you do.
Go do what you do. But don't get mad if you see a sister who's really, really sincerely wanting to do the right thing, and then you there playing games. Come on, man. You can't do that, because that's messing up our bigger plan, which is to take us out of the land of demonic Egypt.
Yes.
Promised land.
We
need more solid Black men and women, but especially men, to be leaders.
Yeah.
And to see the promised land and then create a blueprint. I said this to you the other night. If you create the blueprint, women will go in there and they'll make sure that the garden is picked up. They're gonna paint it up. They're gonna make sure the food everybody's eating. They're gonna make sure there's a system. Everything is assembly line. They're gonna get the money. It's like men. I always say this: men is like the force. Men are the people that can create the building for the 4 seasons, but it's the structure that puts the flowers, the music, the smell when you go in there, you know, does the menu, set up the all the things that make you like the Four Seasons and make you want to see it as a 5-star hotel.
Yes.
Women are that for men.
Yes.
But
because there's structure and then there's environment.
There you go.
Structure, construction, other thing, and then the designer, the interior design.
So if those two things merge,
oh God, so powerful.
That's what they're afraid of.
And that's what a lot of men, you don't understand. You don't have to be afraid of that, because what you're fearing is your help.
Right.
You're literally fearing the help that's going to turn the house into a home.
Yeah.
You're literally fearing the help that's going to turn this business into an empire.
Yeah.
You're fearing the help, the suitable helper. You've chosen all the non-suitable people because guess what? The truth of the matter is, every man on here can attest to this. Whatever season you was in, you picked a woman that was based on that season you was in. If you was in your whorish season, you did not pick a woman that was a wife.
Yeah, the pitch on this one.
Listen.
That's true though.
So whatever you pick is going to be based on where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. It has to have everything to do with your vision. It has to. And you cannot allow what you think you are doing to supersede what your vision really is, because once you begin to identify, that's interesting to me. I need to step to, there's something going on here. Then that's the Father giving you an indication of something. He's saying to you, I'm going to take you somewhere. Now I need you to get on my program because I'm giving you what you need to take you where you're going, to help you get where you're going. But I need you to get on my program. But what men like to do is say, well, I got these other things going on. I really would rather do this first, do that first, and do the other. And listen, a real woman respects that. She's like, go do you. Okay? Yeah, go do you, because what we're not getting ready to do is this.
Right.
Because a woman likes to be a priority.
Right.
And when you don't see, it's something you said a few minutes ago that was so powerful, but it lends me to this point that you can't treat a woman, a wife, like she's just any woman or wife. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That's the wisdom of a man says that if I'm dealing with a woman that's going to be my wife, there's a way that we deal with each other that is unlike how I deal with other people, like my language. What I say to everybody, I don't say it to her. How I function, I do it differently with her. Why? Because she's my wife. Here's a perfect example.
Singer Rain is funny. She's funny.
My daughter. She's my child for real.
She's funny, man.
Yeah,
I like her, man. She's funny.
This is an example. So Isaac is in the land that his father, in the promised land. You got to understand, a lot of people went to the promise before these children of Israel got jacked up and wound up in Egypt and wasn't in the promise. But he's in the land and he has to deal with this king. Well, he did like his father. My wife is my sister. They take her into the kingdom. They take her into the house and they let her out. He's looking out his window and he sees Isaac, the word says, sporting with Rebecca. Sporting meaning there's some kind of intimate dealing. There's some kind of thing that's going on with them that you can't just say, oh, that's my sister.
Right.
So when I'm talking to you about how you deal with your woman, your wife, she can't be mixed in with everybody else.
Right.
You can't treat that like you treat everything else in life. That's priority. That has to have some kind of precedence.
I agree with that. Absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this is what I believe for some men is really scary, because they have to understand that the word does talk about a man laying down his life for his wife. That's the example that the master set, was that a man lays his life down. It's so serious to the Father. He said that a man that marries, he need to take off a whole year to make his wife happy, to cheer his wife up. He needs to get to know her. He needs to spend time building something with her. Then he can go back out. That means, so you know what that means? That means that the Father always intended for a man to have a business that would pay him while he was asleep. So there's some things that we got to get to. We got to get back to some places.
That's
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
because he always intended that. There's no way he would tell you got to take off your job for a year and your job is the thing that provides and you got to go out to get it.
Right.
So there, even with that, we're going back to systems. You got to identify the king's system. And you got to understand the first line of defense in the king system is your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how he created everything. Right. So if you're talking about what you're not capable of, what your limitations are, if you're talking about all of that, that's why it's not being accomplished. Because you're vacillating. The Bible says, let not that man, the double-minded man, think that he's going to receive anything from the Father. You can't say you want this and then say, I can't do it.
Right.
The two things don't go together. They are like magnets. You can't put a magnet together like this if they're the same force.
Right.
They repel each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's real.
So this is important, that you understand that if you're saying you want something, remember I told you, practice makes permanence.
Right.
So what you've been practicing is why you've created a permanence for yourself. Okay. Now you've got to determine some other form of practice, which means you need to be exposed to some things. You need to take the time to expose yourself to something other than what you've been exposing yourself to. That means you need to get a clue, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What we would say in what we really need to do right now is say, wake up. Because you've been sleeping. You've been in a matrix state. You've been asleep. And all of these messages are coming over on your screen and you're getting rid of them. You remember how C.E.O. was doing? Right. You're getting rid of the messages. You're not saying, okay, what is this? You're not trying to identify what's going on in your environment. You just, okay, that's not in line with how I want to move. That's not, well, I really want to do it this way. You know? Yeah, it's
Jezebel of Proverbs 31. That's it.
That's it at the end of the day. So
what my movie's coming out in December.
Talk to us about that.
It's called P31. So it's about Proverbs 31. But I created it in today's time and made it a story. It's really cute. It's a really great story. But I think that there's getting ready to be a hunger for P31 women.
It is.
And the problem I see, if we're not careful, the men won't be able to handle the type of Jezebel.
You're right. It's right. It's getting ready to go to a whole nother level.
It's getting ready to go to another level. So it's going to require women that are Proverbs 31 to really hold up, to be in continuous prayer. And one of the things that I've noticed that for my life that helps me is choosing my thoughts.
There you go.
So, it's like you mentioned C.E.O. Yes. I like to look at the movie as an analogy to Minority Report.
Yes.
So Tom Cruise is doing this and he's going through and he's looking for a suspect. That's our thoughts. Just got to be this to our thoughts.
Yep.
No, not thinking about that. And then focus on what is the intent and what you want your thought to do. Because when a thought creates, it's creating forever. That's why when you say, I am love, I am Jesus, I mean, not Jesus, I am greatness, I am prosperous, I am whatever, it never dies. That's why you got to cancel contracts.
You got to kill it. You'll have to kill it before it won't die by itself. You'll have to kill it.
You have to say something. All the negative stuff you said, you have to say something to cancel those agreements.
That's right.
Right? And then focus on what you're saying. So if something says, I don't feel well, you go, nope, not thinking about that. I'm thinking on, I feel great. And you send that out there because you are the master. You are the master of
your life. You are.
You're the master of it. And so some people say, well, we're not God. We should pray to God. No, God is already in you.
He's already in you.
He's already in you. What you're supposed to be doing is praying to God for direction.
Period.
For wisdom, for more information on what to do.
That's right. Because the operation is going to come from you.
Exactly.
You're the one that has to do the operation.
So when you pray, oh God, please
do this, do that.
God gonna say, okay.
I've given you power to get wealth.
I've given you power to get wealth. You got the words, you got the thought.
Yeah.
Think it, speak it, and then it'll appear. That's how it works. Now, what God will do sometimes is give you direction. He'll say, hey, go this, do that, and you'll get the money faster. Or you go this way or turn this left or go take your daughter to get some new shoes and you going, but I don't want to. And then you get there and then somebody meets you and go, hey, I knew I was going to meet somebody like you today, and I just for some reason want to give you the exact amount that you need for your rent today. I mean, that's how God's economy is not Satan's economy.
It's not.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not.
So if you work in God's economy, then things just go in this flowy, like water. Be like water, as Bruce Lee would say. Flow.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Flow. It's just you just move.
You
think it and move, and you just keep thinking. You swim and you keep moving. That's how we're going to be able to make it this next.
Yeah, in these next seasons.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to happen. Yes. That's going to happen. So we're going to close it up here. One of the things I want you to remember is not to allow the counterfeit to dictate the lifestyle of the promise. Y'all familiar with how that works? You know, the counterfeit comes on the scene with Abraham, and now it's dictating. It's picking at the promise. A lot of you have allowed counterfeit ideas, counterfeit concepts, counterfeit relationships to diminish the promise that the Father has made to you. Now you're frustrated, right? Be present, men, not just have a presence. Did that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You need to come into a place where you're being present, not just having presence. You know, I think about this all the time, and I think along these lines, men, I was like, well, I pay the bills, don't I? Yeah, you pay the bills, but I need your attention.
Right.
Be present, not just have a presence in a place. You know, not just present as in I'm here, but be here. Be in the moment, right? Because Adam's presence was in the garden, but he wasn't present. The Father told him something, and he allowed something to happen that was contrary to what the Father said, and he was present.
Right.
But he was not allowing himself to, to feel that area, to feel that,
right.
To become in that environment that stopped what was going on, right? All silence is not gold.
Mm.
When it comes to a woman, especially you talking about your woman, your wife, your words are necessary. The Father gave Adam the garden. You know why he gave him a garden first? Why he put him in the garden first was so that he would learn how to cultivate and protect what the Father had created, to teach him how to do that for his wife.
And how to lead.
So if he could not take the time to cultivate and protect what the Father had given him originally, then he would not have the knowledge that he needed to cultivate and to keep his wife. Your words are so important to a woman. It waters her.
You're giving her life.
Yes.
With your words. You're watering. You're as you just said. You're watering that life. It's like a plant. You're just speaking that positivity in the words, powerful words. That's it.
They added, boy. They added. I want to say this, and then we're getting ready to close. She said, I'm about to throw this phone. I want you to think about this.
She liked what you said about that money.
Listen, I want you to think about this, man. Who's speaking when you're not?
Is it a Jezebel or is it an Esther?
Right. But who's speaking when you're not? Who is speaking when you're not saying anything? Creator, cultivator. Who's speaking when you're not? So whoever's speaking when you're not,
or is it God saying?
Right. So whatever is speaking when you're not speaking is creating something, creating an environment, creating a path, creating a direction. Right.
And so do you want to restore your soul or break your soul?
Come on now. What do you want to do here? Because the choice is really yours. I want you, listen, to become a creator. I want you to become a cultivator. But the reason why we did this is because I want you to become an unmuted man. Listen, I'm so thankful for my guest today. We almost been on for 3 hours. My brother been hanging with me. We've been on here. And we didn't even give y'all everything. I think we might have to do it again because we didn't even. We're going to have to do it again.
Touch the surface.
And look, Clarence says this all the time. He tells people this all the time, that when I come on, I'm really just scratching surfaces. And if people think it's so deep, but I'm really just still scratching the surface. It's really some more depth to what we've communicated here. But I am so thankful for the wisdom and for the voice. I said this to you before. I respect the men in this season whose voice is powerful. That means they're not silent, but they're speaking. Because without the man's voice, what can we do? What are we going to accomplish by ourselves? It takes the man's words to see the womb, right? It takes his desire to see the womb. And so we're so excited. We want you to understand that we're glad that you were here with us. And whatever platform this goes on, whoever is listening, listen, I want you to know that you're a more powerful man than you give yourself credit for. I'm praying for your eyes to be open today, that your eyes be illuminated, that you would understand your purpose in a new way, that your ears would be open. I rebuke the spirit of deafness and the spirit of blindness that is keeping you from seeing what you need to see, hearing what you need to hear, and from saying what you need to say. It's your time, but you're going to have to participate because it's your time. You're going to have to participate. Any last words for the people, Carl, before we get off of here? Any last words, brother?
No, I think we said it all. I just want to thank you for letting me be on your podcast. You hear me?
Yeah, say it again.
Can you hear me? I said I want to thank you for allowing me to be on your podcast to speak. And I really had a good time.
It was amazing. It was amazing. We love y'all. I'm hoping to see him back here soon. We're going to have to do it again because, like I said, but he's a busy man. So we're going to have to figure it out. If not this month, it'll be next month. But we're going to pick this thing back up and we're going to run with it a little bit longer and a little bit stronger because I think it's so important. The reason the man is so necessary is because of all the things that darkness is doing. We're going to need the strength of the man in this season to really help us. A lot of women have a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas. I'm talking to my brother now about some of the ideas that I have. I think it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be really amazing. And he's really going to be like, you tapped in. You tapped in. Okay, let's do it.
Love you too, Singer Rain.
Yeah, let's do this. Love you too, baby.
I'm telling your daughter, I love her too.
Yes, I love you too, baby. And so, it's all about the partnership in this season. Be mindful of your partnerships and go ahead and walk in your purpose. Be mindful of your partnerships and go ahead and walk in your purpose. We love y'all. Go ahead.
And be mindful of who you have around you too.
Yeah, that's the partnerships. Be mindful of your partnerships.
Yeah, be mindful of who you have around you because, yes, be mindful. Maybe I missed that part because it's going in and out. So
that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, that's real though. You know what? Before we get off here, I want to say this. I want us to tap into this one more thing because I think we tapped into it a little bit, but I feel like somebody's watching and they need us to go a little bit further into this because when we're not aware, I want to be sure that people understand that darkness uses people that are sometimes not aware of darkness. They're not aware that they're being used. What this means is that you have to be aware that they're being used. Did you get that, man? The woman that approaches you may not know that she's carrying a Jezebel spirit. She may not know that castrating you is her focus, that that's who she is, that that's her wiring.
That's
she
pretty
may
good.
not be intentionally coming at you like that. That just might be who she is, who she's been wired to be, right? But it puts the onus on you. You have to be responsible because everything that glitters is not gold. We heard that, right? But everything that behaves nicely is not kind. It's not nice. Everything that puts on a show of being something doesn't mean that that's what it is. So the onus is on you to identify what you're really dealing with. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the fact is that there are a lot of men who are more interested in what's being handed to them than who the people really are. Because, a gift that has strings is a dangerous gift. Especially if you don't fulfill what their mind was thinking that it was supposed to fulfill being connected to you.
That's good.
It's dangerous. So can you speak to that real quick? The fact that they need to be awakened, even if you give an example of when you were not awakened and then you realize this is not really that. It looked like that. It sounded like that, but this is not really what it is. And the danger of that.
Of not being awakened?
Of not being aware of what you're dealing with. Persons, people. Because men get comfortable. And can I tell y'all something? If you're not comfortable with somebody, you really shouldn't eat their food. I'm just trying to help y'all tonight. For real, though. For real. I'm not being funny. I'm just telling you at the point the Father begins to reveal the nature of a person, it's stuff that you shouldn't do anymore because nature is being revealed. Go ahead.
I can give you 2 examples of my own life. That's the best analogies. Yeah. Stuff I've been through. We talked about our interaction when I first met you.
Yeah.
But I had an incident where it was this woman that I was dating,
Mm-hmm.
and we were having sex or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I would go to sleep, I would have these dark dreams,
Mm-hmm.
like really dark,
Mm-hmm.
satanic dreams. But it was
Mm-hmm.
only when I was at her house or laying in her bed.
Mm-hmm.
And her bed was like this big red round. It was weird. It was a weird
Sound like
bed.
the Proverbs 31 woman. I have lavished my bed with aloes and
Right.
myrrh.
But the strangest thing was she was a prophet from church.
Ain't that something?
She was a church girl.
Yeah.
So my point is this: sometimes people don't. Sometimes
Women.
you don't know if they know what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and then other times they do know what they're doing, but they're moving in silence.
Mm-hmm.
And when the devil wants to assassinate your mission,
Mm-hmm.
he usually sends an authentic professional
Absolutely.
to assassinate your mission.
Absolutely.
So I think it's I almost typed the N word. So I think that the key is look at how a person makes you feel when you're around them. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel the presence of God, or is there an uncertainty? Do you feel closer? Does this person bring you closer to God, or is this person distracting you?
Mm.
I had a girl told me one time I was dating. She told me, she says, "How would you feel if we got married, but you stopped doing what you're doing now?" Now, mind you, she was a woman with a master's degree. She was working on her doctorates.
Mm.
She was professional, and she was like, "I think you and I would make a great couple, but you're on this path that's like, I don't really think it's cool. How about
Mm.
we just live a normal life?" And I looked at her and I didn't think she was demonic. I just said, "You're a distraction."
Mm-hmm.
And I got out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because when God has called you to something, it doesn't matter what anybody else's plans are for your life.
Come on.
It don't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Their plans for your life is second to 1,000.
Listen, that's real.
You know what I mean?
That's
So
real.
you just got to know who you are, where you're going, and then you got to know what you're feeling when you're around people.
That's so
And
real.
every time I ignored my feeling about people, things always turned out to be exactly what I was feeling.
Absolutely.
So that feeling is God's voice.
That is.
That's why the devil always tell you, don't follow your feelings. Don't go with your feelings. Go with your thoughts, your brain. Because what they want you to do is disconnect from God.
Mm-hmm.
God works in emotion.
He does. Don't ever get that twisted. He does.
He works in emotion.
He
so
does.
When you feel something, even if it's anger, that means that something demonic is around.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you got to be careful who you.
That's good, Diamond. Be aware of your soul roundings. Come on now.
There you go.
That's powerful.
Because if you don't, what happens is it'll start off you're thinking that it's you when really it may not be you. Mm-hmm. It could be the energy that's around you that's trying to manipulate.
We talked about frequency. Everything is about frequency. It really is.
Be around talking about that.
That's soul roundings. Listen,
I like that.
That's so good. That's so
Master
good.
manipulators.
We love y'all. Listen, we could do this all night, but I'm gonna let y'all go because this is good. This is good. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what men are going to do in this season, because I believe the reason why he had me doing this is something he's been speaking to me about for a long time. But this is the season to really discuss and to have conversation with the man. Because
the man's got to be strong in this next season. Because the devil is trying to assassinate male energy. Because it's God's energy.
It is. It is.
They're trying to assassinate. That's why they're trying to make everybody gay or LGBT
or make them a 4-year-old boy when they're a 40-year-old man. Because that's
right.
What?
Right.
So you could be a whole 4-year-old and be a grown man.
Right.
Why does any of this make sense to people? Like, y'all can't see that this is demonic. you know, but it's the same thing when you're not being who you need to be. And I want to say this, and then we're getting off, because those things that you need to hear are not always happening because someone's saying something. Look at how things play out. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
If you're trying to go in a direction and everything is falling the road, you know, like sometimes people say, well, you know, you never quit. I'm going to tell you something. There are times
you need to quit.
That you need to quit.
Yes, it is.
Don't go for that. If you fall for that,
buddy.
then you will be in trouble. There are times as a man when you need to quit.
I hate the one that they say, the Nike one, just do it. No, don't just do it.
No.
Find out if you should do it.
Find out if that's something you should be doing.
Don't just do it. No.
Right.
No.
Find out. Yeah. So we gotta vet all these things that we've been hearing and really move in a new direction. You know, and that's what this podcast is all about. We love you guys. Carl, I appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you too.
Man, this was good.
Yes.
This was good. And we were transparent. We were all of that.
Yes.
And it's just, listen, this is where we are. This is what it is. And I honor
your daughter.
She's so foolish. I love her. She's my child, though. She's my child.
She is so your child.
She's my child. So
a woman, I guess. How old is she?
Well, she's in her 20s. She's 27.
Yeah, she's a woman. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm saying she's still my child, though.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, she's my child. So yeah, we love you guys, and I'm excited to see how far this goes. You guys share this. If you're not aware, the Unmuted Man YouTube channel is up. I did get that done this week, so you guys can go there and start dealing with that, as well as the Rock Mogul Ministries page. Any YouTube channel I put up, go get it. Y'all, let's just start. What I really want to do is build a community where everybody that has used YouTube channels, we can all kind of build each other's YouTube channels up, right? We need to, this is how we impact systems. We got to put the voices that need to be heard in a position to be heard, right? We've got to put people in a position where where their voices can penetrate the system and flood it with light. You understand what I'm saying? So y'all go do that, and we'll be back here in 2 weeks. The Unmuted Man podcast will be. You guys can find us on all different kind of platforms. I believe my brother said he's going to put it up, possibly as well. So tell them how to get to CJC TV.
It's CJC is channel 504 on local now. We're also on the C.E.O, which is the biggest Black television and news platform in America, owned by Byron Allen.
Okay.
We're also on select Time Warner things, Tiki Live, channel 54, Freecast TV's channel 3805. Mm-hmm. We're all over the place. If you want to get channel numbers in your area, go to our Instagram page. It has channel listings. It's CJC Network on Instagram and CJC Network on Facebook, and it has channel numbers there. But just check your local listings if you can't, and if none of the places that I just mentioned doesn't work for you.
Just put it in CJC Network.
Yeah, the CJC Network's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're competing with ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. Yeah. We're up there with all the other ones, and we're speaking the truth. And
speaking life and speaking
the
life.
only reason why we're able to do it, some of the people that work for me used to work for Comcast and Time Warner, and they're not all believers or believe what I believe.
But they believe in you.
They believe in me,
and that's a part
they have definitely they've made sure that all my contracts were negotiated in a way where I can speak what I feel in my heart in my programming versus having to be censored. And so I take that very seriously. I don't bash people. I don't tell people don't do this or don't do that. I just give them what I feel God wants me to tell people when I do my podcast. And I have other shows on there that don't always agree with me on CJC. But for the most part, I try to filter what we play. And yeah, man, that's what we do. That's what we are.
I'm so excited. Movies are coming out. You guys connect with Carl on his YouTube. Follow him so you'll know what the movies are. LAX 2 is coming out.
LAX 2.
Listen, I love the
first one
trailer.
That movie was one of the biggest movies for me last year. It was like, I think over 5 million people watched that movie.
Oh wow!
It's like that's why we're doing a part 2. It was so big that Fox called us and was like, "Look, we got to do another one." So we're doing another one.
I love it.
We just saw the trailer for 2, the teaser.
Absolutely.
And people loving the teaser. They're like, people are hating me because they like,
listen,
you're such a butthole.
Right,
but
right.
My before we go, my takeaway is Christ, or
the Mashiach,
Yeshua. He gave parables. He told stories.
He did.
And I think that one of my callings and my gifts is not to preach to people, but to create scenarios and movies
that make people think
where people live, but then show them how they can work in that situation in a positive. Absolutely. And if you look at LAX, it's a positive ending. It just doesn't seem that way because when you watch it, you see all this drama.
Arguing and back and forth.
Right. But if you really listen to what the characters are saying, it's really teaching people how to communicate and how to debate.
It is.
To love each other.
Yeah, the answer is always in the problem. Yeah, it's always in the problem. We love you guys. We're about to get off here. My grandbabies can't. They just can't do it. Okay.
See you later.
Listen, yeah, God bless you. He's like, why you not? They're not playing with me. Love you guys. I'm appreciating you for being on here with me, and we will be back. Maybe next month we'll schedule something to come back and have a conversation and make it a little more regular because I love the way we flow as well. But thank you again, my friend, for being here with me, and thank you guys for being on the live and for listening to the podcast.
And if you haven't seen LAX, the first one, go to Tubi. It's on Tubi right now.
It is. It's on Tubi. LAX 1 is on Tubi.
Yeah.
All right. Love y'all. We out of here. Carl, you can stay in the studio. I'm turning this thing off on this end.
I'm gonna go eat.
Peace, y'all.
I'm gonna eat. Bye.